At Food Revolution Network, our mission is healthy, ethical, and sustainable food for everyone who eats. We want kids to learn about healthy food in school. We want doctors to learn how nutrition impacts health in medical school. We want the routine use of antibiotics banned from factory farms. We want a world where everyone, regardless of their ethnic or economic background, has knowledge of and access to healthy food for their family. We want a world in which heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, and diabetes are rare, and in which vibrant health is the status quo. We're spreading the word and standing for change. Join this movement and support this mission.
Yes, welcome. Join this mission. Thank you for being here with us today. And welcome to a very special plant-based nutrition live webinar. I'm so glad you're here. So this event is brought to you by Food Revolution Network's Plant-Based Coaching Certificate. You may have noticed by now, I am not Ocean Robbins. And the reason for that is that he is on our way. We had a little technical problem and we're working it out behind the scenes, which is why we had a bit of a late start. So thank you for those of you who hung in there and are here with us right now. If you care about your health and you understand that food really matters, you're in the right place. These are your people. And if you want to help others make even better food choices, or you're here to gain some cutting-edge nutrition insights that can transform your life, you're absolutely in the right place. So today we're going to explore how whole food, plant-based eating can help to heal and even reverse the 5 key risk factors that contribute to metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome now impacts more than 1 in 3 adults in the US and is fueling type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic illnesses. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but the good news is, either way, this does not need to be the truth. So whatever brought you here today, I invite you to please bring your full attention so that something that you learn could potentially change someone else's life, or maybe even your own. So we're going to begin today with some powerful presentations from world-renowned leaders in nutrition and health. These amazing individuals also happen to be faculty at Food Revolution Network's Plant-Based Coaching Certificate Program. We'll call it PBCC for short. That's less of a mouthful. So if you stay with us beyond the presentations, beyond that Q&A to the end, you'll hear more about PBCC and how you could become part of that next cohort if it speaks to you. This could be the moment that you take a step towards your own better health or towards helping others in a profound way. So for now, let's clear away distractions, put your phones on silence or maybe even off, and take a deep breath with me to arrive. A nice big inhale and exhale. The value that you gain today will multiply with the focus that you bring to it. And with that, welcome again, and let's get started. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Ocean Robbins to you, even though he's not on the call right now, because some of you might be familiar.
He is
Tracy,
on the
he's
call.
here. He's
He got
here.
Hooray! Hi, Ocean.
Hi, sorry. I don't know if anybody else had technical difficulties getting in. It seems like Zoom was at capacity for some reason. Anyway, we're here now and so glad to be with all of you.
We're breaking the internet. Yay.
Or learning some lessons about tech ourselves. This is to show you all that it's okay to be imperfect. And that however sophisticated you think you are, you've always got more to learn. And sometimes life is about perfect execution, and sometimes it's about rolling with what happens and making the best of it. And being grateful that we're here together now, which I sure am. And I'm glad I got in because I've been trying for the last 20 minutes. All right. Thanks, Tracy. You were going to introduce me, though. I won't stop you.
Oh, well, I don't know that I could say this better than you, but I'll try. So,
Okay.
Ocean Robbins is a father, a husband, a home gardener, co-founder, and fearless CEO of Food Revolution Network. He's a TEDx speaker, a best-selling author of 31 Day Food Revolution. And at Food Revolution Network, together with our million members, we stand for healthy, ethical, and sustainable food for all. Since 2012, Ocean and our team at Food Revolution Network has sent more than 1 billion educational emails, hosted over 2 million people in our Food Revolution summits, and welcomed more than 1 million participants across our courses and master classes like Healthy Heart, Brain Breakthroughs, Tackling Type 2 with Brenda Davis, who's also here. And we've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to advance nutrition education in medical schools and to support honest food labeling. And since 2023, through this plant-based coaching certificate we'll talk about later, we've been equipping coaches around the world to help others make life-saving shifts to a whole food plant-based lifestyle.
Well, yes. Thank you, Tracy. What a sweet introduction. And, I think that, since my dad and colleague John Robbins left his earthly body on June 11th, we've actually been counting in moon cycles. He died on the full moon. And so yesterday was the 4 lunar anniversary of his passing. And it's really highlighted for me this deeper inquiry into what really matters while we're on Earth, because it got really clear to me when my dad died that when we die, we don't take money with us. We don't take reputation with us. Um, we don't take what other people thought of us with us. A lot of things that seemed important. We certainly don't take our health or our health problems with us or our traumas with us. But what does matter from that vantage point, right? And it seemed really clear to me that love matters. Like whatever we've given and done matters. Probably karma, if you will, our net impact. Like those ripples live on. And it's so clear to me that our time on Earth is precious and unpredictable. Like we all know we will die. None of us know when we will die. But while we're here in this blink of an eye in universal time, how can we embody our moments with as much full heart and meaning as possible? And so I noticed that some of the things that seemed to really stress me out before just don't seem worth it anymore. And I'm a lot more interested in going slower and with purpose and intention and actually being here for each moment rather than racing through the to-do list and accomplishing all the things that seem so critical. And that kind of purposefulness and presence feels really life-giving and beautiful to me. And one of the things that it does is it makes it more possible for me to be in connection with other people. And I am so grateful for the caliber of human beings that are part of the Food Revolution Network community that my dad brought into my life, that I get to work with every day, and you all are part of that. So I just want to express my incredible gratitude for the human beings who are here today, who are interested in learning about nutrition and about impact and about how we can spread the word and make a healthier society. Because the status quo, our toxic food culture, is creating so much suffering and death and pain, misery for human beings, for families, for ecosystems, for animals, and we can do better. And that's why we're here today. So thank you for being a part of a food revolution that to me is really of profound importance for humanity, for our lives, and for our future. And there's an old saying, a person with their health has 1,000 dreams. A person without it's only got one dream, which is to get it back. And so I'd say all of us who are interested in plant-based coaching, like we're in the 1,000 dreams business. We want to help people have 1,000 dreams to be able to live their purpose with clarity and joy. And that is why we're here today. And I want to also introduce Tracy. She may have already said a bit about herself, but she is a certified holistic health coach and founding director and program manager of our plant-based coaching certificate, and has a heart of gold and a brilliant mind and is a visionary leader. And she's going to share some logistics with us now, unless you already did before I got here.
Not yet. Thank you so
Okay.
much for that, Ocean. It's
Yeah.
always a gift to listen to you. And right now, I'm really thrilled to be here with Ocean and everybody on the call today. This event is especially meaningful because metabolic syndrome is one of the most sinister health challenges of our times. It's another silent storm. And it's a condition that doesn't just impact one organ or one disease pathway. It's a cluster of risk factors that together drive most of today's chronic illnesses. So we've put together this incredible lineup of experts to show you how food, specifically whole plant-based food, can help turn that tide. So if you joined us back at our workshop in August, this event is more specific to just nutrition, and we hope you love it. We're going to go even deeper and zero in on the building blocks of metabolic syndrome and how to stop it in its tracks. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get going. Yes, this event is being recorded, so for anyone who registered, you'll receive this replay link afterwards. Please direct any questions you have today for any of the speakers to the Q&A box rather than the chat to help us address them effectively. If you're looking for your Q&A box, it is at the bottom of your screen under the More button. There's a little Q&A question mark there. That's the box I'm talking about. Your participation is really key to making this engaging and informative and helping you get the most out of it. You can even upvote questions that you really want answered. And we'll try to answer as much as we can. If you have questions about the coaching certificate specifically, we're going to dedicate time at the end of this to go into more detail about that. So if we don't get to any of your questions, please reach out to us. I'm going to share the email and the link now, certificate@foodrevolution.org, and that's the place to get all of your questions followed up with. Back to you, Ocean.
Okay. And I do see a question, how long do we have the replay to watch? I'm actually not sure, but it's not one of those like tight time window things. So let's say at least a month and probably longer. Yeah, sorry for not being more specific, but yeah, we're not planning to take it down anytime soon unless Zoom has some rule about that. I just want to say that metabolic syndrome is an official medical diagnosis. But it's really a conglomeration of things, and it can show up as heart disease, it can show up as type 2 diabetes, it can show up as stroke or fatty liver disease, even certain kinds of cancers. It affects more than 1 in 3 adults in the United States today and hundreds of millions of people worldwide. I think the wonderful news is that these conditions are largely preventable and oftentimes reversible. Every pillar of lifestyle medicine, eat better, stress less, love more, move more, avoid dangerous substances, and get good sleep, they're all critical. But food is the foundation of health and probably the most powerful lever that we have to give the body what it really needs to heal. And there are now thousands of studies showing that a whole foods, plant-rich diet can drive down inflammation, can lower blood pressure, can improve cholesterol profile, can balance blood sugar, can support a healthy weight, all of which directly addresses root causes of metabolic syndrome. So our goal today is to deepen your understanding of how food can help heal and even reverse the 5 key risk factors of metabolic syndrome. Again, these are abdominal obesity, high triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, high blood pressure, and high blood sugar. A clinical diagnosis of metabolic syndrome is made when someone has at least 3 of those conditions. Now, to support your learning, we've created a special educational handout for metabolic syndrome that outlines all of this clearly, and we'll share it with you in the chat in a moment here. Anyone who registered with us today will also receive it in the follow-up email that will go out along with the event recording. Metabolic syndrome is not a single disease. It's a cluster of conditions. They often occur together, and they raise the risk of, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, premature death. And so, carrying extra weight around the belly, known as central obesity, is one of the key risk factors. It's often called an apple shape, and it's a lot more dangerous than a so-called pear shape, where weight is carried in the hips and the thighs. Secondly, high triglycerides are fats that circulate in the bloodstream. So elevated levels can clog arteries and significantly increase risk of heart disease. Third, low HDL cholesterol is a problem. We often say HDL is the good cholesterol because it helps clear excess cholesterol from your arteries. So when HDL is too low, your risk of heart disease rises. The fourth risk factor here is high blood pressure or hypertension, which puts constant strain on the heart. It damages arteries and it wears away on the kidneys. Over time, it becomes one of the leading drivers of stroke and heart disease. And then the fifth marker here is high fasting blood sugar. It's an early sign of insulin resistance. When your body can't use insulin effectively, blood sugar stays elevated, which sets the stage for type 2 diabetes. So here's the big picture. Each of these risk factors alone is serious. But again, when three or more occur together, they create a dangerous synergy that dramatically increases the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, stroke, and many other ailments. The good news is all 5 of these risk factors are powerfully influenced by diet and lifestyle. And that's why we're here today. So I'm honored to share a little more about our expert speakers today, each of whom will shine a light on a different piece of this puzzle. And the first one is Brenda Davis. Brenda is one of the world's foremost experts on diabetes and plant-based nutrition. Today, she's going to guide us through how a whole plant-based foods approach can help regulate blood sugar and lower triglycerides. With decades of research and a gift for making the science practical, Brenda's going to show us how dietary choices can profoundly impact insulin resistance, metabolic balance, and long-term health. She is the host with me of our Tackling Type 2 Masterclass and Tackling Type 2 course. She's one of my dearest friends and so grateful she's here. We'll introduce her more properly in a moment. Next, we're going to have Dr. Joel Kahn, who is known as America's Healthy Heart Doc. Dr. Kahn is a preventive cardiologist. He's an inspiring advocate for food as medicine, and he's going to focus on how plant-based nutrition can improve cholesterol and blood pressure. These are 2 critical drivers of cardiovascular disease. His clinical expertise and his passion make a powerful case for how changing what we eat can save lives. And last but certainly not least, today we will be joined by Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson. Susan, also one of my dearest friends, is a weight management and neuroscience expert. She is celebrated for her groundbreaking work on food addiction and lasting lifestyle change. She'll share how a whole food plant-based diet can help break the cycle of cravings, overcome overeating, and achieve sustainable weight loss, which can address abdominal obesity that lies at the very heart of metabolic syndrome. And as you listen, I want you to keep in mind, these risk factors are deeply interconnected. Improving one often leads to improvements in the others, and that is the magic of a whole food plant-based lifestyle. It helps the body heal from the inside out. And now we want to hear a little bit from you. What brought you here today? Do you personally struggle with any of these risk factors? Or maybe you're here to learn more for someone you care about. Share your reasons for being here in the chat, whether it's to improve personal health or help other people. Learn more, says Karine. Sandy Klatt said both. And let's see, anyone else want to share? Continue my PBCC education. Oh, wow, it's coming fast. Okay. Julie said, I struggle with several risk factors and I've been whole food and plant-based since January. I need more help and info. Improve personal health of metabolic disorder. Personal. Learn more. Live longer and more vitally. Eat a whole food plant-based diet, but I'm overweight. I have more than 3 of these and want to reverse this. I do suffer from some of these symptoms. HDL is low. I graduated from the last FRN PBCC cohort and the training was nothing short of amazing. I learned so much, even having been plant-based for nearly 13 years already. I love that you're offering continuing education for those of us that have graduated, said Marcia. Diane said, help other people. Randy said, insulin resistance. Personal health, said Megan. Lots more. Of course, you all can probably see the chat as well if you want to see the wonderful heartfelt shares. And I just want to say, like, for everyone who is here, we're so grateful. Hopefully you will get a lot of value from this time, whether you're here for personal reasons, whether you want to grow professionally and help other people, whether it's a bit of both, you're in the right place. You're going to learn a lot today. I want to be really clear before we go any further that nothing you hear today is medical advice. We are sharing nutrition, education, and coaching. Of course, always work with a qualified healthcare professional about your specific medical concerns and needs. At Food Revolution Network, we've seen again and again that change is possible. Through our annual Food Revolution Summit and our Whole Life Club community and our various programs, we've seen so many people take courageous steps to reclaim their health and their well-being. And these stories remind us again and again why plant-based education and plant-based coaches are so urgently needed. We really believe that the world needs more boots on the ground, gardening boots, if you like. To us, this means coaches who can translate the science of nutrition and lifestyle medicine into practical, client-centered action plans that empower people to thrive. Whether you're here to deepen your own knowledge or support loved ones or bring this wisdom into your workplace or community, your presence tells me you're part of the solution. So please be sure to stay with us to the end when Tracy and I are going to share more about the next cohort of our plant-based coaching certificate. It's now open for enrollment. And if what you learned today sparks your passion to help other people, this could be your chance to join a supportive community to gain critical skills and to start making a real impact with plant-based coaching. As you listen to our speakers, we want to invite you to consider how what you hear today could directly impact your life and the lives of others and the work you may be doing now or wish to do in the future. Please leave your questions for our experts at any point throughout their presentations, and we'll take some time after each speaker to get their responses to some of them in real time. That's through the Q&A box, please. Now let's get started with our first presenter, Brenda Davis, who I am just thrilled to be here with. I already said a little bit about her, but just to say a little more, Brenda is the prolific author of 12 books with nearly 1 million copies in print, translations in more than a dozen languages. Her diabetes-focused work includes the Kick Diabetes Cookbook and Kick Diabetes Essentials. These are practical, and they offer lots of recipes to help people enjoy getting their blood sugar balance in order. She is a lead dietitian in a landmark diabetes intervention project in the Marshall Islands. She develops school curricula and trained teachers to help shift a community facing some of the highest diabetes rates in the world. Brenda brings deep expertise and incredibly keen mind and a huge heart. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you so much, Ocean. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your kind words and for having me as part of this. I'm just thrilled to be here. Thank you, Tracy, and I'm so glad you got the little hiccups all resolved. So yes, very wonderful. I loved seeing all of the reasons why people are here. So many inspiring people. So I will share my screen. Let's see, share. Let's see. Okay. And I just have to move this box so I can see how to. Whoops. Can I? Huh. Oh, there we go. Slideshow. There. Can you see the screen all right now? Yes. Oh, perfect. Thank you. So my topic today is blood sugar and triglycerides, but specifically I'm going to share a story called Lessons from the Marshall Islands. And you'll see we did a randomized control trial there, and I just want to share with you what happened in the Marshall Islands. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Marshall Islands, they lie about halfway between Hawaii and Australia, just above the equator in the North Pacific Ocean. And the Marshall Islands has among the highest rates of type 2 diabetes globally, over 25% in 2024. And that's down from close to 35% previously. About half of all surgeries on the islands are amputations due to diabetes. And a century ago, diabetes was pretty much unheard of in the Marshall Islands. People were very slim, they were physically active, and they lived off the land. So what did they eat? Well, they ate whatever they could catch from the ocean, of course, fish and seafood, and whatever they could collect from the islands, like coconut, breadfruit, bananas, pandanus, and green leaves. So what happened? Well, the diabetes epidemic was really the result of a complex interplay of nutritional displacement, socioeconomic instability, and an under-resourced health infrastructure. But urbanization drove the three key culprits, which are an insufficient supply of healthy indigenous foods, an increased reliance on imported highly processed foods, and a decline in physical activity. So the typical diets today are very highly processed. The little girl in the upper left, this is 6:30 in the morning. You can see what her breakfast is, a Pepsi and a popsicle. In the middle, this little girl is eating a standard school lunch of white rice and chicken. The favorite snack of children is ramen noodles, dry out of the package, often with Kool-Aid powder sprinkled on top. On the upper right is a typical funeral meal of processed carbohydrates and meat. And the bottom left is a first birthday party, and you can see the huge bins of meat, mainly processed meat, large amounts of white rice. In the middle is luau. This is the most common beverage consumed, and the first ingredient is high fructose corn syrup. Other ingredients, of course, are colors and flavors, and that's what this little boy in the left-hand picture is consuming. And then on the far right, all sorts of processed food, but Spam being one of the staples of the diet. So before I tell you more about our randomized controlled trial, I want to just discuss a little bit about the basics of blood sugar and triglycerides. So what is blood sugar? Well, it's basically glucose circulating in the bloodstream. The main sources are food, so from carbohydrate digestion, the digestion of starches and sugars. The second potential source is body stores, the breakdown of glycogen from the liver. And the third is internal production via gluconeogenesis. So glucose can actually be made from non-carbohydrate sources like amino acids, lactate, and glycerol. And our normal fasting blood sugar is usually around 70 to 100 milligrams per deciliter. Now, when you have chronic high blood sugar, it does a lot of damage to the body. It can trigger insulin resistance, beta cell fatigue, and type 2 diabetes. It damages small blood vessels, increasing the risk of eye, kidney, and nerve diseases. It damages large blood vessels, leading to peripheral artery disease, heart disease, and cognitive impairment. And it impairs immunity, increases infection risk, and accelerates aging. So what about triglycerides? Well, triglycerides are essentially the body's storage form of fat. They look like this, 3 fatty acids attached to a glycerol backbone. And they're produced from consuming excess calories, especially from refined carbohydrates and fats. And they're stored in fat cells. They're circulated in the blood via lipoproteins. And the normal fasting levels is under 150 milligrams per deciliter. Now, when we have elevated triglycerides, it's both a sign and a driver of metabolic dysfunction. And high triglycerides are associated with cardiovascular disease like atherosclerosis, pancreatitis, metabolic syndrome, and insulin resistance, metabolic associated fatty liver disease, inflammation and oxidative stress, cognitive impairment and dementia, and increased mortality. So let's swing back to our lifestyle intervention, our randomized controlled trial. And this trial was actually the brainchild of a Seventh-day Adventist medical mission team called Canvasback Missions. And they actually received a grant from the U.S. Department of Defense to conduct the first ever randomized controlled trial in the Marshall Islands, and the first ever lifestyle intervention ever conducted in Micronesia. We partnered with the Marshall Islands Ministry of Health, and they provided us a space. You can see this building to the left, which was a TB and leprosy clinic, but we converted it into a functioning research center and diabetes wellness center. So our study design, we did a 24-week randomized controlled trial with 169 participants in 5 overlapping cohorts. To qualify for the study, participants had to have diabetes. So they had to have an A1C over 8 or have type 2 diabetes diagnosis and be taking glucose-lowering medications. Participants were randomized to either a control group which received standard medical care using glucose lowering therapy, or a lifestyle intervention group using primarily a plant-based diet and exercise. And people went through a very intensive phase, and we had 2 versions of the program. We did an enhanced version to see if more time in the intensive phase would be helpful. But during the intensive phase, people were with us 4 days a week. They received 3 meals a day and 5 to 6 hours of group classes, including an hour of exercise. And on the 3 days a week they weren't with us, we still provided all their meals, so to take home and prepare. And then the intensity dropped down to 2 days a week, and people received 1 meal, so it was the evening meal, and 4 to 5 hours of group classes, including 30 to 60 minutes of exercise. So these first 2 phases lasted 6 weeks. And then the next six weeks were just 1 day a week, 1 meal, 4 to 5 hours of group classes. And then the next 3 months, people tried to do their program on their own at home. They didn't receive any intervention. They just had to turn in their pedometer readings and get measures done. So here's the intensive phase standard schedule. People did a fasting glucose in the morning, then breakfast and a walk. And then they had lunch and did a walk at noon hour. And one of the 2 of these was at the clinic and the other at home, and we swapped that out with different interventions. But then between 3 and about 8:15 or 8:30, people came back to the clinic to do a blood sugar test, an exercise class, another blood sugar test, a cooking class, dinner, a walk, an education, and a final evening blood glucose. And so we, as you know, there are 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. We focused on all 6, but really our emphasis was on a healthy whole food plant-based diet and exercise. So I want to share a little bit more about what our healthy whole food plant-based diet entailed. So the dietary parameters for the intensive phase and all wellness center meals were that they were whole food plant-based, high fiber, moderate fat, low saturated fat, very high in phytochemicals and antioxidants, and low to moderate in sodium, certainly under 2,400 milligrams a day and under 1,500 for those with high blood pressure. Post-intensive was exactly the same, but our participants were permitted to consume fish, but only steamed or boiled or baked, not fried, and at home. So here are a little bit more about our diet details. There were 10 core principles, which if you're trying to fight metabolic syndrome or prediabetes or diabetes, these are super important for you. Number 1 is to make whole plant foods the foundation of the diet. And the reason is simple. These are the most nutrient-dense protective foods. Our key strategies here were to make half our participants' plate non-starchy vegetables and fruits, just over a quarter protein-rich foods like legumes and tofu, lesser amounts of nuts and seeds, and then to make slightly less than a quarter of the plate greens and starchy vegetables. Number 2 was to create a sustained caloric deficit to reduce ectopic fat stores. And ectopic fat is that fat that's inside vital organs like your liver and pancreas. Excess fat accumulation in these places drives insulin resistance and beta cell dysfunction. So this is super important. Our key strategies here were to emphasize less calorically dense foods like non-starchy vegetables and fruits, to minimize liquid calories, and to control portions of more calorically dense foods such as grains and starchy vegetables. And that may come as a surprise to a lot of people because in many programs, these foods are unlimited, but we found very quickly we could not make them unlimited or our blood sugars weren't where we wanted them to be. We provided 3 meals, no snacks, and encouraged time-restricted eating, no eating after dinner until breakfast. Number 3 was to minimize consumption of ultra-processed foods because these are linked to increased morbidity and mortality, so increased risk of all kinds of chronic diseases. Our key strategies here were just to prioritize whole and minimally processed foods, to prepare meals from scratch, to limit packaged foods with added fat, sugar, and salt, to avoid sugar-sweetened beverages, but also to be really selective in our processed food choices. So we did use some processed foods. We used more nutritious options such as unsweetened fortified soy milk, some canned beans and tomato products, tofu, things like that. But we also used very small amounts of sweeteners like jacamai, which is the local coconut syrup, and a little bit of oil if needed to prevent sticking, but we used the smallest amounts possible. Number 4, control portions of high quality carbohydrates. The quality of carbohydrates really determines their health outcomes. And our key strategies here were again to rely on high fiber whole plant foods as our primary carbohydrate sources, to minimize all refined carbohydrates, both starches and sugars, to choose less processed whole grains. I'll tell you more about that in a second. To avoid sugar-sweetened beverages and to control portions of these high carbohydrate grains and starchy vegetables. And one of the key things that I think people need to take away from my short presentation here is there is a hierarchy of whole grains. All whole grains are not created equal. And at the top of the hierarchy, the most beneficial whole grains are those that are intact, like barley, oat, and quinoa. These are grains that have had nothing harmful added and nothing healthful removed. And then we have cut and rolled and shredded and ground and flaked and puffed grains. And as you go down the hierarchy, you're increasing the surface area of the food and increasing the rate at which it will be absorbed into the bloodstream. You're exposing the food to heat, light, oxygen, pressure, thereby diminishing nutritional value. But you're also, as you're getting lower down in the hierarchy, you're increasing the possibility that things like salt, sugar, fat, and additives are present in the food. So in our program, we stuck mainly to foods above, at the rolled level or above, and we included intact grains every day. Number 5 is to ensure sufficient fiber and to prioritize viscous fiber. High fiber intakes, at least 20 grams per 1,000 calories, improve glycemic control and blood lipids. So what we did here, our key strategies were to feature legumes. We did pretty much at every meal. Include intact whole grains every day, regularly include foods rich in soluble fiber, like ground flax or ground chia or barley, oats, or beans. Provide fruits and vegetables with each meal and encourage plenty of water consumption. Number 6 was to favor foods with a lower glycemic impact and glycemic load. Low GI/GL diets improve glycemic control, insulin sensitivity, and beta cell function in people with type 2 diabetes. Our key strategies here were to emphasize non-starchy vegetables, legumes, and small servings of nuts and seeds, to control serving sizes of starchy vegetables and grains, to select lower GI vegetables and whole grains like pumpkin instead of potatoes and intact instead of ground grains, the lower GI grains like barley over brown rice. To further reduce glycemic impact of meals, we added protein-rich plant foods to meals, healthy fats such as nuts and seeds, acid like lemon, lime, or vinegar, and seasonings known to reduce glycemic impact of meals like cinnamon, ginger, and fenugreek. Number 7, to make legumes the primary source of protein. And animal protein, we know, increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, while plant protein consistently reduces the risk. So our key strategies here were to serve whole legumes at least twice a day, to regularly include soy foods, to provide protein-rich soy milk with breakfast, and to use legumes to make things like loaves, patties, and spreads. Number 8 is to moderate total fat, favor whole food fat sources, and include omega-3 fatty acids. Fat quality is really critical in relation to both risk and progression of diabetes. Our key strategies here were to keep total fat around 20% of calories, with whole plant foods being primary sources, to avoid meat, poultry, and dairy products, to avoid coconut oil and moderate our intake of high-fat whole coconut products, to avoid fried foods, and to limit the use of concentrated fats and oils, and of course to include omega-3 rich sources every day. Number 5, to emphasize foods rich in phytochemicals and antioxidants, because these protect against diabetes and enhance treatment. Our key strategies here were to include a wide variety of colorful whole plant foods, to focus on the deeper colors in the entire spectrum of the rainbow, to include raw foods with most meals, including sprouts, to be generous with the use of herbs and spices, and to provide antioxidant-rich teas with our meals. Finally, number 10, to minimize exposure to dietary contaminants. Environmental chemicals and products of high temperature cooking drive inflammation and oxidative stress, disrupt hormones, and damage vital organs and DNA. So our key strategies for reducing environmental contaminants were to focus on foods that are lower on the food chain, use as much local organic food as possible, vary grains so rice is less frequently served, and to limit sources of microplastics such as seafood and sea salt. And in terms of high temperature cooking, we avoided charred or blackened foods, avoided fried foods, and focused more on using moist cooking methods such as steaming, stewing, and water sauteing. So what did our participants eat? Well, our participants ate intact grains or muesli for breakfast with plenty of fruit and omega-3 rich nuts or seeds. We also included beans and greens or scrambled tofu at breakfast as well. Lunch was mainly soups and salads with plenty of legumes and non-starchy vegetables. And dinner was largely non-starchy vegetables and protein sources. So things like tofu, tofu stir fry, an edamame noodle salad, gado, curries, lentil loaves, and things like chilies. Now, in the Marshall Islands, there is a challenge of affordable produce. And imported produce was really expensive, soil quality poor, local farming limited. However, they have a growing season that's year-round and plentiful sunshine. So we spent a lot of time teaching participants to grow food in earth boxes, to grow sprouts at home. And we also, of course, focused on exercise. We had a multi-model approach using aerobic exercise, resistance training, and walking after meals. And aerobic exercise, we did at least 30 to 60 minutes a day, and this improves insulin sensitivity by enhancing a glucose uptake, and it can last for up to 48 hours. Resistance training, we did 2 to 3 times a week, and this builds lean muscle mass and improves glycemic control and A1C even without weight loss. And I think maybe our biggest secret weapon where exercise was concerned was walking after meals. So we did at least 15 to 30 minutes of walking after each meal. And this reduces postprandial glucose peaks by enhancing glucose uptake during heightened glucose availability. And we just found a huge difference in glycemic impact of meals with walking after meals. Now, we mentioned that we had other pillars of lifestyle medicine that were incorporated as well. And we did that during our education session. Stress management, sleep, social connection, freedom from addiction were all key lectures in our program. So now let's take a look at some of our results. So you can see as the intensity of the intervention waned, so did the numbers. But fasting sugar was down by 72 milligrams per deciliter at 2 weeks, 45 at 12 weeks, and 25 at 24 weeks. A1C was down by 2 points at 12 weeks and 1.4 at 24 weeks. Our measure of inflammation was down between 1 and 1.5 points. Weight was down over 6 pounds at 12 weeks and around 5.5 pounds at 24. HOMA-IR, which is a measure of insulin resistance, was down over 2 points at 2 and 12 weeks and almost a point at 24. And triglycerides shockingly dropped by 47 milligrams per deciliter at 2 weeks, 38 at 12, and 20 at 24. Our results are published in 2 places, the protocol in Frontiers of Nutrition in 2019 and the results in Diabetologia in 2025. Our program was very much a success. 23% of participants had, with a baseline A1C under 9%, achieved remission, and participants consistently reported less pain, less disability, clearer thinking, better sleep, and less constipation. And in conclusion, a whole food plant-based diet with moderate exercise can be offered as a highly effective, evidence-based lifestyle intervention for individuals with type 2 diabetes. And we do have ongoing efforts in the Marshall Islands. The Wellness Center continues to operate. We offer free lifestyle interventions, free cooking classes, free dance classes. We do community outreach. And in 2017, I was invited to develop a nutrition curriculum for the public school system. We did teacher training. And then in 2024, I returned with my son to do a wellness center staff training. And we also did an education evening for President Heine and her staff. And our success has inspired many changes in the Marshall Islands. People are now aware of the link between lifestyle choices and the risk of diabetes and other chronic diseases. Stores are stocking healthier food options. Restaurants are offering wellness-approved meals, and physical activity is being much more widely embraced. And it all culminated in January of this year with the release of the Marshall Islands National Healthy Living Guidelines. And so with that, I'd like to say Komol Tata. This is thank you in Marshallese. And thank you so much for your attention.
Oh, what a fascinating presentation, Brenda, and the comments. So many people are sharing how much they love the slides and the message and how useful this is and how important this is. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. Folks, because we got off to a little bit of a late start because of the technical snafus, we're not going to take a super long time for Q&A right now because Dr. Joel Kahn is waiting to join us. But we want to ask a couple, Brenda. One is, Maura said in the Marshall Islands study, why were the numbers not as good at the 24-week mark as they were at 2 and 12 weeks?
Oh, it's very, very simple because the intensity of the intervention waned. So during the first 2 to 4 weeks, people got 3 meals a day from the clinic. They were receiving, education classes, exercise classes. And in the last 3 months, they received no intervention at all. Even as, after the first 6 weeks, they were only seeing us once a week. And so they were doing more on their own at home. And when you live in a house with 16 people and a dirt floor and no refrigerator, it gets harder and harder to do the intervention. So the people that were really well off, that had these, refrigerators and stoves and such, were much better able to follow the program. And they were more the ones that succeeded in achieving remission. So some people say, well, could this program work at home? And they face so many barriers there compared to what we do. So I think it would be much easier at home, to be honest.
If you have a fridge and a stove, you have a huge leg up in terms of your chances of success. Yeah. Thank you, Brenda. Okay, and then last one from KW. Should monk food and stevia be avoided, or is it okay to use daily for tea? I do use a lot. And is it considered sugar to avoid?
Well, these are non-caloric sweeteners, so they don't add calories. But my complaint about non-caloric sweeteners, even those that are relatively safe, is some, like stevia, have been associated with a possible decline in a healthy gut microbiota. That's a huge, huge thing that we need to be aware of. And the other thing is, when you keep sweetening foods with these non-caloric sweeteners, you're not you're not adjusting to less sweet foods and making your palate happier with less sweet foods. And so I think the lower you can go, the better it is, and the less frequent your use of these things is, the better it is. And so if you can get used to drinking beverages without any added sweeteners, even those healthier non-caloric sweeteners, I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Brenda, thank you so much. Last question. I want to ask you, since you are a core part of the faculty for the plant-based coaching certificate, we'll be introducing it more later for everybody here. Why are you choosing to be a part of this program, and why do you think it's important right now?
I think it's hugely important right now because people are being told what to do, but they don't know how to do it. And coaches just make all the difference in the world. To have someone to work with, to help you with the little bits of fine tuning, to give you help you get motivated and give you some fun ideas about what to actually eat. Just improves success hugely. And we need more people who have these skills that are out there and who care about others. So I just think it's the most wonderful program. And I feel very, very honored to be a part of it.
Well, thank you, Brenda. And we are so honored with your participation. And our students consistently just love learning from you. And it's easy to see why. All right, folks, we're going to make a pivot now, trying to gain a little bit of time. We'll have more questions and answers woven through the day as we go along. But we're going to focus now on heart disease, the #1 killer in the world today. And we're going to hear from Dr. Joel Kahn, who is not only a brilliant cardiologist, considered America's healthy heart doc, he's also a dear friend, a mission-driven colleague, and a valued member of the Plant-Based Coaching Certificate guest faculty. Dr. Kahn is the founder of the Kahn Center for Cardiac Longevity. He is a clinical professor of medicine at Wayne State University School of Medicine. He has triple board certification in internal medicine, cardiovascular medicine, and interventional cardiology. In addition to his practice saving lives as a cardiologist, Joel lectures around the world, inspiring health through good nutrition. He's the author of several best-selling books, including Your Whole Heart Solution and The Plant-Based Solution. He's also the host of the Reversing Heart Disease Naturally Summit. His mission is to prevent heart attacks by educating people to eat clean and apply cutting-edge science to their lifestyle. Without further ado, over to you, Dr. Kahn.
All right, everybody. Thank you so very much. And I do have patients in about half an hour, so I'm going to stay on track here and talk fast, answer a few questions. If anybody has really sharp eyes, you'll see that I took a pickleball to the face over the weekend. So if I lisp a little bit, it's because I got knocked out to the ground. So be careful with that pickleball game. Let's see how this goes. Confirm for me, Ocean, if you're still there. You can see the screen?
Yes, we can
Okay.
see the screen.
Good. I had to change some security settings. So I'm going to address two aspects of the metabolic syndrome that are very cardiology related, and the data to make you feel empowered that you can optimize your own and other people's both cholesterol levels, we call those lipids, certainly interchangeable words, and blood pressure. Blood pressure is the number one killer, actually, of men and women around the world. It's part of the cardiovascular disease pie of diseases. And I was online today and telling everybody, get a blood pressure cuff. They're on sale on Amazon Prime Day. And I feel so emphatic that people need, a great Vitamix, and they need a great smoothie maker, and they need a great blood pressure cuff at home, all the same. So you've undoubtedly heard, and I'll just quickly go through, anytime something says a syndrome, it's things that go together, but we don't fully understand. The polycystic ovarian syndrome. We haven't found the gene. It may be there are multiple factors involved, from diet to fitness to sleep to toxins to genetics. And there's 5 components that make up this metabolic syndrome. It's also had other names in the past. Syndrome X is one of them, insulin resistance syndrome. But, we need to deal with low HDL cholesterol, high triglycerides, visceral fat, insulin resistance, hypertension. And why do we care? Why has cardiology been talking about the metabolic syndrome for 30 plus years? If you look over to the right side of my screen, the metabolic syndrome can raise the risk of neurologic disorders, particularly dementia. Not a fun thing to have. Type 2 diabetes. Metabolic syndrome is not quite yet type 2 diabetes, but they're very much on the same road, and you'd like to get off that road and go backwards. Ovarian cystic disease or syndrome. Many names for non-alcoholic steatohepatosis, fatty liver disease. Various cancers are of increased risk, stroke and cardiovascular disease like heart attacks and early death. So we do not want your patients to qualify for 3 of the 5 criteria and be called metabolic syndrome, which is a billable code. Over the years, and this is data from 2004 from a fairly large American study, if you look at the yellow bars, coronary heart disease mortality, and you go to the middle, cardiovascular disease mortality, a little different. That includes strokes and high blood pressure deaths. And then over to the right, total mortality. The healthy people are the green bar, and the metabolic syndrome patients are the yellow bar, and diabetic patients are the blue bar. So you can see in terms of risk, being on the yellow bar, a metabolic syndrome patient is not optimal. It's not normal. It's not as risky as having full-blown diabetes type 2. It's not as risky as having had a heart attack or a bypass or a stent, but it's an early phase. And of course, everything we do is prevention, never get metabolic syndrome, or early diagnosis and reversal, remission, through food as medicine, plus the rest of the lifestyle spectrum. So it's a real deal that is concerning. Now, a lot that we're talking about is not all that new. People are still surprised to see that our government recommended back in 1980, and people scream all the time about the U.S. dietary guidelines, and I think we're all going to scream when the new ones come out. But you can see back in 1980, eat a variety of foods. We still say that. Maintain ideal body weight. We still say that. Avoid too much fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol. God knows this community says that, not the carnivore community. Eat a lot of whole starch. John McDougall, we're waving at you, and lots of fiber. Number 5, avoid too much sugar. People think that's a new concept. Not a new concept. Avoid too much sodium and drink in moderation or none. But certainly these concepts do go back. It's education that is so needed. And that's why it's so good to talk to a group of health educators. If you talk about the metabolic syndrome, the definition's on the left. I want you to look over on the right where it says plant-based diet. We have literature to say we can reduce our weight and shrink our waist circumference, one marker of risk for cardiovascular disease. We can lower, decrease, this spelled wrong, I apologize, our triglyceride level. We can improve our overall cholesterol panel, HDL and LDL. We can certainly improve our blood sugar control, glycemic control, and under proper guidance with medical teams, reduce the need and the dose of diabetic medications. It's unquestionably true, what I do in the clinic all the time. And we can reduce our blood pressure to healthy, normal levels, maybe not need to start a medicine, maybe carefully what's called deprescribe, reduce the dose or get off medicine. When you look at, I apologize, bouncy, actual research, just to give you a flavor of it, here are 5 studies in people with normal cholesterol levels that were put on plant-based diets. Some of the names you recognize, Dr. David Jenkins, 1997, with his famous portfolio diet, and Dr. Neil Barnard, 2 early studies. And you can see that total cholesterol responds very well to a plant-based diet. LDL cholesterol drops. Occasionally HDL cholesterol does drop a bit. Dr. Dean Ornish certainly showed that. That was not this group of patients, but we can anticipate, and it's a standard part of my conversation with patients, including this morning, that we can anticipate a drop in your cholesterol with a whole food plant-based diet, fiber-rich. And if you want to do that before supplements or medication, let's go for it. When you take a different group of people that have high cholesterol, not normal cholesterol, and you offer them a plant-based diet, now you see Dr. Dean Ornish, 1990, the famous heart and lifestyle trial, and his follow-up data in 1998. And then Dr. David Jenkins, University of Toronto, somebody who probably doesn't get enough credit for his pioneering work over the years. I hope he's well. He's got to be into his 90s at this point. You can see major reductions in the various lipid fractions. The only one that there hasn't been consensus and much data on is the genetic cholesterol called lipoprotein little a, where we're still more dependent on treating other factors and upcoming pharmacologic agents that hopefully we'll see next year. If you look at the bottom of the graph, this is triglyceride levels. And it's separated into observational studies where plant-based diets were used and randomized studies where plant-based diets were used. And when you get into formal randomized studies, like the famous Dean Ornish lifestyle heart trial, triglycerides, tend to go down, but occasionally they don't respond the way we want, even with weight loss. But when you look at the observational studies, we certainly expect triglycerides to go down. I typically see triglycerides to go down. I think the key here is omega-3 fatty acid content of the plant-based diet. Teaching about walnuts, teaching about flaxseed, teaching about hemp, teaching about chia seeds, teaching about leafy greens, perhaps obtaining a blood test for omega-3 fatty acid levels on a plant-based diet. And if the foods can't get a person to where they want, thinking about a vegan version of omega-3. That really will bring triglycerides down if somebody's omega-3 deficient. Labs like LabCorp, labs like Quest all offer omega-3 fatty acid blood tests. People can order them on their own and pay for them, or a medical prescriber can order it. And there's a billing code, E63.0, because I do it all the time, for checking omega-3 fatty acid blood levels. And then you bring them up to normal, you'll see the triglycerides go down, part of the metabolic syndrome. This just to show you in 2022, the Journal of the American College of Nutrition, first author, the famous Dr. Neil Barnard. There were a whole lot of observations in a study of a low-fat vegan diet versus a Mediterranean diet that included some animal products. They took healthy volunteers and they had them on 2 different diets and crossed them over. But amongst the data points where the green arrow is, I'll just read it to you. People on no medication, total and LDL cholesterol decreased 19 and 15 milligrams per deciliter. Pretty good results on the vegan diet. They did not actually drop on the Mediterranean diet. So nice study, reasonably up to date. Always love to see the great work by the PCRM group and their efforts to back up what we teach with real science. There also was last year, and it's a little blurry, I apologize, but many of you may know a cardiologist in Jacksonville, Florida, Monica Agarwal, a real great woman with a great book on inflammation, given her own experience with rheumatoid arthritis, going into remission on a whole food plant-based diet. But she did a randomized study of taking healthy people in the Florida area and putting them on 2 versions of a whole food plant-based diet. And I really want you to concentrate on the left mainly. All the people put on a whole food plant-based diet improved their cholesterol panel, improved their lipid panel. There actually was a group on a very low extra virgin olive oil. That's what EVO stands for. And there was a group on a moderately high extra virgin olive oil diet. They all improved. There was more improvement on the low extra virgin olive oil than on the high extra virgin olive oil, but they all improved. And there recently was what we call in the research area a meta-analysis about extra virgin olive oil on lipid panels, and it was a very favorable review also that it's up to your own discretion and education whether that's part of your diet. But the whole food plant-based fiber-rich diet is the key there. If you go way to the right, this is a summary statement that Andrew Freeman, Neil Barnard, Neil Ornish, Caldwell Esselstyn, they were all authors on this important review paper that's now amazingly 8 years old. But in terms of the foods that are evidence-based for cardiovascular risk reduction, again, let's not get into the controversy about olive oil. It is a controversy. But certainly if you teach blueberries and strawberries and reasonable portions of nuts, I favor walnuts because of their ability to support healthy omega-3 levels and brain health, green leafy vegetables, and plant-based proteins, obviously beans. We will be making a significant advance in dealing with the metabolic syndrome, which is so common. Obviously, if you look way to the left, we want to completely or nearly completely avoid the saturated fat in coconut and palm oil, eggs. A comment on juicing. I mean, there's again a little debate of how dangerous green juicing is or not, but I prefer smoothies with the fiber. And obviously staying away from a standard American diet or a particularly awful Southern diet. So let's shift from data to say a whole food plant-based diet can improve one aspect of the metabolic syndrome, which is lipid disorders. And, we're only talking about diet. We're not talking about sleep. We're not talking about fitness. We're not talking about stress management and other aspects of a holistic approach to a patient. But let's talk about high blood pressure. Everybody needs a home blood pressure cuff, which you can get on Amazon Prime today at a discount, which I'm excited about. I want my patients to buy one. And if you look in the top central section, one of the benefits of a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet is blood pressure reduction due to the high amount of potassium. This is a frequent topic now in cardiology and blood pressure research, is we've been so focused on low salt. Nothing wrong with that focus. But maybe we ought to teach people to focus on also making sure they have potassium-rich foods to maintain normal blood pressure with as few or no prescription drugs as possible. You just got to have that darn blood pressure cuff to know it. Some of you, or all of you, hopefully are aware of a series of studies called the Adventist Health Studies out of Loma Linda University. Dr. Gary Fraser is often the lead author named. And you can see that in their studies involving tens and tens and tens of thousands of Seventh-day Adventists, the meat eaters versus the semi-vegetarians versus the vegetarians versus the strict vegans in terms of a diagnosis of blood pressure, there was a much lower risk of high blood pressure. And the beauty of the Adventist study is similar communities, similar lifestyle, very low alcohol consumption, very high emphasis on fitness. The main difference amongst one house to the next was how adherent to a whole food plant-based diet based on church scripture that they were. So vegans tend to have, there's no guarantee, but tend to have lower blood pressure, which would remove one of the diagnostic criteria for the metabolic syndrome. Okay, way too noisy, but if you look at the top, vegetarians and blood pressure, a meta-analysis, 2014, and you look way to the right, data that favors vegetarian diets and data that favors an omnivore diet with animal products, you can see that almost all studies show that when you adopt a vegetarian or vegan version of a whole food plant-based diet, you can anticipate blood pressure being more normal. And this comes from studies all over the world going back several decades. It's evidence-based, it's science-based. There's always, in nutrition research, going to be some disagreement. You just got to anticipate that. And this was an even more comprehensive analysis of the impact of vegetarian diets and blood pressure. Again, lumping all the studies around. The omnivore diet was the comparison. The vegetarian diet was the research group. And you can see on the right side, these are called lines of identity. Anytime the little box is to the left of the line, it means there's a reduced risk of a condition. And there's a very notable likelihood that a person on a vegetarian and or vegan diet is going to have a healthier blood pressure and hopefully totally normal blood pressure. Going back to Dr. Neil Barnard's randomized double-blind crossover trial, it wasn't double-blind. That's a mistake because people knew what they were eating. When they looked at the green arrow there at blood pressure during the two different trials, systolic and diastolic blood pressure on the plant-based diet decreased 9 millimeters of mercury systolic and 7 millimeters of mercury diastolic and on the Mediterranean, and dropped 4 millimeters of mercury or so in the vegan diet. So blood pressure will drop on a whole food plant-based diet in addition to the cholesterol. And although I'm not focusing on that on this talk, but the study also found in the randomized approach that blood sugar control. So if you can improve with a whole food plant-based diet, blood sugar control, high blood pressure, cholesterol parameters, maybe a visceral fat around the waist and waistline, with one intervention, a whole food plant-based diet, you've basically removed most of the criteria for metabolic syndrome. And more important than that, you've reduced people's risk for all those outcomes of the metabolic syndrome that are so serious. So there are, all foods in the produce department are on my menu, and the nuts and the seeds and every bean and soy-based products. But if you really want to lower blood pressure, you might focus a bit more on garlic. There is a fairly rich literature of research studies on garlic lowering blood pressure. Kiwi happens to be very rich, richer than oranges in vitamin C. Kind of a fun fruit to eat. I like eating them. I leave the skin on. Grapes, rich in antioxidants. Leafy greens for sure. Bananas, their potassium level. There's many foods with more potassium than banana. And watermelons, particularly the white rind. Next time you buy a half or a whole watermelon, be generous in including some of the white rind. It's very rich in a product called citrulline. You can buy as a supplement, but you can eat it. And citrulline helps you make more nitric oxide. All these foods can help you make more nitric oxide. Nitric oxide causes arteries to relax. And when you have relaxed arteries, you may have, as a result, a lower blood pressure at the end of the day. So, but you can just put just about any fiber-rich, whole food, plant-based food on here and anticipate it's going to promote a healthier gut and ultimately a healthier blood pressure. So just, quickly going through, and we'll have time for a few questions, as many as Ocean wants to allow before I got to check out for a patient. But really, the data is strong. We all have seen it. I'm in my 48th year of whole food plant-based eating, exclusively nothing but, and I'm at about the same weight I was at high school. It's a pretty nice thing, but I'm not thin as a stick, but thin enough. BMI of 26, pretty good. But weight loss and waist circumference reduction, that'll help eliminate metabolic syndrome. Lowering triglycerides, if you focus on omega-3 rich foods, that will help reduce metabolic syndrome. Improving the overall cholesterol panel, lipid panel will improve metabolic syndrome risk. The glycemic control, which I've not focused on, but other people are, will improve and lower the risk of metabolic syndrome. And reducing blood pressure, which is clearly true. I will say, I just want to give a shout out to my colleague of blessed memory, Baxter Montgomery in Houston, one of the greatest losses of 2025. But I often start patients on his program of really intense juicing, because I'm not opposed to green juicing for a week or two, and raw foods and salads, and really, the healthiest of whole food plant-based detoxes. And I see quite remarkable improvements and changes in palate and changes in sugar cravings, and get people started that way. Then, add in the legumes and the grains and get them back to a more accessible diet. So I thank you, Ocean and Food Revolution Network, for asking me to speak. I'm going to quiet down and see. There's a couple questions, as are moderated by the great Ocean Robbins.
Well, Joel, you are, as always, brilliant and so practical. And thank you for all of your wisdom and insights and the decades of work that you've done going into it. By the way, for those who don't know, Dr. Joel Kahn was also voted a number of years back the sexiest vegan alive. So just make sure you all know that too. Add it to his bio, please. In your mind, he's too modest to do so.
It was specifically in 2016 with the great Victoria Moran, and it was the sexiest vegan over age 50. So
okay.
There was an accommodation for wrinkles and gray hair.
Well, a lot of our audience is happy to make that accommodation. Thank you, Dr. Kahn, for such a wonderful presentation. We got a lot of questions. We'll try to get to them quickly because I know we've got limited time.
We're good.
Let's see. Deborah asked, how often should people take their blood pressure measurement?
That's a good question. I do in the clinic. There's no absolute answer. I have them start out about every day for a week. Doesn't matter morning or evening, depending on how bad it is. I'm dealing with a patient right now with a 230 over 130. Yeah, he's checking his blood pressure twice a day. And after a week, and they email me the results, I want them to do it once a week. Everybody gets dizzy. Everybody has a episode where they don't feel well. A home blood pressure cuff, it's non-negotiable. You just got to have one.
Yeah. What's the goal for blood pressure? Is it still 120 over 80, asks Christy.
Yeah, actually optimal under 70, 120 over 70. So by the time you're 130 over 80, you're being called pre-hypertension. And, it's just like blood sugar, though. I just want to share, you got to be careful going too low, particularly in the elderly. And same with blood sugar. You don't die immediately of a high blood sugar. You can die of a low blood sugar. You can die of an excessive. So there's an art to it all. That's why you got to have the home blood pressure cuff. You got to monitor. Now, the new Whoop band gives you some input. The new Apple Watch supposedly gives you some input. We don't have a really good wearable for blood pressure, but we will in 2026.
All right, thank you. Christina said, are omega-3 6 supplements something to avoid if you have AFib?
Super high dose ones. Yeah, 4 grams or above are of a concern. Yeah, Dr. Ornish has used 4 grams of fish oil in all of his studies and describes no AFib. But there is one cardiac study with one particular prescription version at 4 grams that they did see some AFib. So I have no hesitation putting people on 1,000 milligram a day.
4 grams is a lot. Most people who are taking supplements are not
physically,
taking
it's like
that much.
4 footballs of fish oil.
Yeah, it's a little fishy. Yeah. Anne said, any thoughts on LPA? Mine was 356 when tested in June.
Okay, I don't want to be too commercial, Anne. I've written a book called Lipoprotein A, The Heart's Quiet Killer. It's the only book in the world on the topic. It's on Amazon. It's worth a read if you haven't found it. You need a consult. I can't get too much deeper here, but that is a genetic cholesterol, lipoprotein A, that everybody should ask their primary care to get that test right there. There's the book, lipoprotein little a. It's got to be a small a. Very important addition to your lab panel.
Linda said, is it possible to reduce plaque in the arteries and get rid of statins? LDL doesn't seem to be lowering on whole foods plant-based. Why?
Well, genetic inputs are a big part. Taking a careful dietary history and see exactly what you're eating is a big part. Looking up David Jenkins' portfolio diet and kind of patterning your whole food plant-based diet after that would be a good idea. It is possible to reverse what we call soft plaque. Dr. Dean Ornish probably was the first one to show that, definitively. Dr. Joel Furman, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn all get shout outs. It is possible. It takes a lot of effort.
Thank you. Michelle said, is a blood pressure digital cuff okay to use?
Yeah, on the upper arm, but that's what here. I got one sitting right here. Boom. I have people buy this one. I don't own this company. Omron Platinum. And yes, it's all digital, but it's attached to a cuff that goes on your arm, not your wrist.
Thank you. Christine asks, is blood pressure higher in the morning? I typically
it
check
is.
it in the evening.
Yes, it is. You wake up, you got your cortisol up, you got your adrenaline up, the alarm went off, and you got your day. Yeah, it's higher.
Karen said, sometimes my diastolic blood pressure runs in the 50s. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay. Your blood flow to the heart occurs during diastole, during the relaxation phase. And if your bottom number gets too low, it could potentially impact blood flow down the heart arteries to the heart. Yeah, you keep an eye on it, talk to your doctor about it. There is a heart valve that if it leaks, it's called the aortic valve, it lowers that number. So you might ask the question, I wonder if my aortic valve is leaking, but I wouldn't freak out. Don't get excited.
All right, Joel, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much. I know you've got to run. We appreciate you so much. Thank you again.
Giant hug to you, Ocean.
And back to you as well. And big hug to everyone else. I know Joel's a big hugger. All right, blessings. And we're going to carry on because, folks, it keeps going. It keeps getting even more amazing. We're going to focus next on weight loss, obesity, and food freedom with one of my dearest friends in the world, the best-selling author, Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson. You know, for a lot of people, when it comes to healthy eating, there's a gap between knowing what to do and doing what we know. And a lot of times food addiction is a critical piece of the puzzle that is just not discussed enough. You know, a lot of people are not fundamentally the author of their food lives. So they don't get to totally make the choices that they want. If you've ever found yourself on the wrong end of an empty bag of chips or cookies, if you've ever found yourself saying, wow, why did I do that? Why did I eat that? Obsessing about food, then this is going to be for you. But it's also important to know, if you're thinking about other people in your life, I am certain you know people who are dealing with food addiction in their own lives. Or maybe if you become a plant-based coach, you'll have clients who will be, guaranteed. You got to understand this, how the brain works. How does the brain respond to food? And think about food. And how do those neural pathways play in? Susan Peirce Thompson is the definitive expert on this. She went from a drug-addicted teenager to a food-addicted young woman. In a quest to reclaim her life, she got clean. She stopped eating sugar and flour, and she went from size 16 to size 4. Now she is professor of brain and cognitive sciences at the University of Rochester, president of the Institute for Sustainable Weight Loss, and CEO of Bright Line Eating. She and her team are on a mission to help 1 million people achieve maintenance, which is the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual transformation that accompanies permanent weight loss. Susan's revolutionary Bright Line Eating program utilizes cutting-edge research to explain how the brain blocks weight loss. And every day she teaches people to undo that damage so they can truly find peace with food. She's the author of multiple New York Times best-selling books, including the landmark Bright Line Eating and her latest, On This Bright Day, A Year of Reflections for Lasting Food Freedom. Also one of my dearest friends on the planet. Susan, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ocean. It's great to be here. Thank you, and welcome everyone. I'm excited to be here with you. I am going to dive right in. I've got a bunch of slides here. And just like Dr. Kahn, I'm going to move along at a clip because we want to have time for questions. So let's talk about obesity, food addiction, and sustainable weight loss. And I agree with what Ocean said. You know, whether this applies to you or someone you know, you might find that it applies to you a little bit. And even that can have an impact on maintaining a healthy weight. So yeah, let's talk about this. We are still getting bigger. Good grief. 3 billion people around the world now have overweight or obesity. We think of it as a Western problem, but actually it started in the Middle East. Then the United States took the lead, and today China and India lead the world in the number of people with obesity. And in developing nations, obesity is now a bigger problem than malnutrition. So the landscape is changing as processed foods spread around the world. In the United States, about 150 million people are dieting. They're trying to lose weight. They won't tell you they're dieting, but they're cleansing, they're juicing, They're keto, they're fasting, they're doing stuff to try to lose weight. And we know that from the US weight loss and diet control market that measures these things. The Middle East still has the biggest issue with mostly soda pop consumption driving the highest per capita rates of type 2 diabetes in the world. I just Googled it before this talk, and Kuwait now has more than a quarter of people with registered actual full-blown type 2 diabetes. My guess is that probably 80% of their population is pre-diabetic at this point. There was a study that came out of that the Los Angeles Times reported on several years ago, showing that in California, I think it was 63% of people were pre-diabetic in California. Anyway, 63% of deaths worldwide can be linked to diet-related diseases. We're not eating right. And it's going to continue to get worse, I predict. McDonald's opened a new restaurant in China every single day over the last 8 years, on average. Brutal. The World Global Economic Forum estimates that $47 trillion will be spent on diseases caused by the way we're eating. You can call it the standard American diet or the global industrial diet or whatever you want to call it. All these foods, born in a factory and poured into a plastic bag. And the average person trying to lose weight will make 4 or 5 new attempts each year. And fewer than 1% will succeed at losing their excess weight. Now, these days, millions are trying GLP-1 medications to solve the issue, but what's happening is that 85% of people stop taking that medication within 2 years, and then the research shows that they just regain the weight. So what those drugs have done at the moment is just create a new turnstile on the dieting merry-go-round. Just yet another thing for people to try and ultimately not stick with. Now, you could add lots of things to this list. This is just a compilation of published weight loss results. These are meager results. This is like averaging around 3% here, weight loss, which means, you're 300 pounds, and after a period of time of trying to lose weight, you've lost 9 pounds. It's just not that much weight. And I'm sorry to say that actually you could put a plant-based diet here. Going vegetarian, going vegan doesn't get better results than this unless you do it right. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit in this presentation is, Oreos are vegan, right? So you can't just go vegan and think you're going to lose weight. But of course, that's not what we're talking about here with the Food Revolution Network. We're talking about a whole foods plant-based diet, and that is part of the kicker. Now, you can see here why weight loss drugs are getting attention. This is semaglutide is Ozempic or Wegovy. And yeah, way better results at 1 year and 2 years. I'm going to show you some updated results at the end of this presentation that I think are interesting. But first, I just want to address, because the body positivity, health at every size type movements would maybe put in a plug to say, hey, don't focus on this so much. Maybe it doesn't matter that we're getting bigger. Maybe the solution is to get bigger mannequins. Now, I'm a huge, huge proponent of reducing anti-fat bias and prejudice. It's actually the only form of bias that continues to go up. Bias against sexual orientation and race and genders all going down. Every type of bias you can imagine is going down over the last 2 decades. Anti-fat bias is the only one that's still going up. That's an issue, but it is an issue that we keep getting bigger as well because excess weight is not benign. Excess weight in the form of plumper fat cells, more adipose tissue, releases cytokines and other inflammatory chemicals into the system, and the weight itself is not good on the joints, etc. It leads to all kinds of things, right? Predictive of body pain, anxiety, fatigue, heart disease, COVID, diabetes, 13 types of cancers, mobility issues, low self-esteem, depression, joint pain, dementia, low sex drive. I could go on. I mean, really just about every health plight there is, mental health or physical health, is exacerbated by excess weight. It's just not healthy. And people want to lose weight, right? They do. They want more energy and vitality. They want to feel more proactive, have more agency, more alignment. And for some people, this isn't true of all people, but for some people, carrying around a lot of excess weight really hinders their impact and contribution. A lot of people feel like they're waiting for their life to begin till they lose the weight. You know, as soon as they think about contributing their gifts to the world fully, the first thing on their to-do list is I gotta get this weight off. That's not everybody's story, but I work with a lot of those people. And if you become a health coach, you're going to work with a lot of those people. My prediction is probably half the people you'll work with, one of their primary goals is going to be to lose weight. So what do you do with these people when nothing seems to work? Obviously, we've got to swim upstream against our current food environment. Our food environment has obviously changed significantly since, I'd say, the 1970s. In availability, in palatability, and in an overall decrease in structure. People used to eat meals and sit down with each other and eat dinner. And we've entered this catch as catch can, grab food on the go. People leave their house without having any idea of what they're going to eat for that day. And even salads are basically carrier mechanisms for gloppy dressing and sugar-soaked nuts and lots of cheese, right? They're not even really necessarily healthy things anymore. So I love this quote by Jiddu Krishnamurti, who says, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Now, you know all this. You wouldn't be here if you didn't know all this. And actually, frankly, lots of people know all this and still struggle to maintain a healthy weight. So what's missing? This is what I've dedicated my life essentially to teaching people about, is what's missing. Now, Ocean mentioned a lot of things. If you want the full hardcore brain science version, I would need more than half an hour to go into that. I'm tailoring this to the person who is thinking about doing a plant-based diet, or they're already whole food plant-based and they're wondering, how do I need to tweak what I'm doing for weight loss in particular? Or if I'm working with clients and they want to be whole food plant-based, what do I need to add into the mix to make sure that they get the weight loss that they're looking for if they really do need to lose weight? That's what I'm going to be emphasizing in this precious short amount of time that I have with you. And I think it really boils down to three things. You've got to help them understand the addiction that they've got in play. And whether that's none, because some people literally are not addictable. And I mean not addictable at all, even to heroin, shockingly. You could inject them with heroin every day for a long time, and they would develop tolerance and withdrawal. But the minute you stopped forcibly injecting them, they'd be getting off it as quickly as they could. They would not get addicted. Other people are highly addictable, and then there's a whole range in between. So you've got to help people understand their level of addictive susceptibility. You've got to help them build a way of eating that's more structured even than just being plant-based. There's some additional elements of structure that are going to be helpful to optimize weight loss. And then you're going to want to be mindful to optimize the method of eating for something called automaticity, which is a word you probably know, but may have never thought of when it comes to food. I'll talk about why it's so important. So let's tackle the addiction piece first. I want to invite you to think about drugs. When we talk about addiction, we're all clear that heroin and cocaine are addictive. This is cocaine here, and this is heroin. I used to be a drug addict. I used to really seek after big mounds of white powder like that when I was a teenager. I've been clean and sober for 31 years now. Oh, biggest miracle of my life. But I'm telling you, these things are highly addictive. And I invite people to think about how they're made. How they're made, these drugs. They're made actually in the same way. Do you know where cocaine comes from, or where heroin comes from? They come from plants. They come from harmless plants. They come from plants that you can eat in their whole form or ingest in their whole form harmlessly with no adverse effects. But when you take the inner essence of that plant and you extract it, and then you purify it through a chemical process in a factory, and you refine and purify it into a fine powder, you take that harmless, innocuous plant and you turn it into a drug. This plant here is the coca leaf off the coca bush in the Andes Mountains. And this is the poppy plant. You can eat poppy seed bagels all day long. You will fail a drug test, but you won't get high in the process. And you won't get addicted in the process. But it's the refined, purified form that does you in. And I just want to say it's the same here. So these substances, sugar and flour, come from plants, harmless plants that it's fine to eat in their whole real form. But when you take that plant substance and you extract the inner essence of it, and then you refine and purify it down into a fine powder or perhaps a syrupy sludge, as in heroin. This is opium right here. Heroin is the syrupy sludge of that. The syrupy sludge over here would be high fructose corn syrup. So high syrupy, thick syrupy sludge, no bueno. Fine white powder, no bueno. Or brown powder, just as no good. So what I'm saying here is eat this, eat this, eat this, eat this, eat this. Don't eat these. That's what I'm saying. It's not about the plant. It's about the refining process. That's what creates addiction. I am here to say that food addiction is very, very real, but not everyone is equally affected. As I was saying before, some people are just not susceptible to addiction at all. Their brains just don't wire that way. Some people are moderately susceptible and some people are highly susceptible. It is genetic. It's also environmental. We know that from lots of studies. What I mean by it's also environmental is if you take specimens, organisms that are not genetically addictable, but you raise them in extremely severely adverse conditions like trauma, some percentage of them will turn addictable. Otherwise, they will grow up to be non-addictable in general. And genetically addictable folks will not always develop addiction, but may. So it's both. So just a heads up for plant-based eaters, because like I said, you can go vegan, you can go plant-based, but Oreos are still available to you. And we're going to talk about some other foods here that you probably don't want to have on your menu necessarily if addiction is in play. Now, across the whole population, the average level of food addiction susceptibility is 2.38 symptoms out of a total of 11 symptoms. The symptoms are things like when you start to eat, you struggle sometimes with losing control over how much you eat, or you sometimes eat under hazardous circumstances. This one's actually shockingly common. A lot of people report, yes, I do indeed drive and eat in a way that I feel threatens my safety and the safety of other people. Another symptom would be continuing to use a substance like sugar, flour, ultra-processed foods, despite consequences, adverse effects that are caused or made worse by that consumption, like the diabetic who loses a limb from diabetes, and then 53% of them will lose a second limb within 2 years. So this is shocking because they know at this point that they have diabetes bad enough to lose a leg, and they can't stop eating that way. And 2 years later, they lose a second leg. So yeah, those are the types of symptoms we're talking about. Obsession, excessive time spent getting the substance, using the substance, and recovering from having used the substance, that food hangover of, oh, I ate too much and now I feel logy, that sort of thing. So plant-based eating, yeah. Careful, because you go to a restaurant, maybe the plant-based option is some sort of pasta with, vegan butter and vegan cheese. That's not going to do you any good. And neither is just sitting down with an oily pot of hummus and a whole bunch of chips, right? So be careful when it comes to all the sweeteners: agave, honey, molasses, xylitol, monk fruit, dried fruit. And then all the flour-based products: chips, bread, pretzels, tortillas, snacking in general, nuts and nut butters in quantity, right? If you sit down and eat a tub of walnuts and raisins, well, that's gonna keep you from losing weight. unlimited quantities of food. This is a big one when you are in the plant-based community. It's very, very common to hear people say that if you're eating the right foods, you can eat as much as you want because your brain will tell you when it's time to stop. That is not true for everyone. That is true for some people. It's not true for everyone. And so for some people who are higher on the food addiction susceptibility scale, you're going to need to help them implement some additional boundaries around the amount of food they're eating, even when they're eating only the purest whole food, plant-based foods. And then, of course, pastas. Okay, so that's the addiction piece. If you're curious about your level of food addiction susceptibility, or you have a client that you want to introduce to this concept, the Food Revolution Network team is going to plop into the chat a link to a simple quiz. It's just 5 questions that you can take. And then after you take the quiz, it'll give you a score from 1 to 10, 10 being high. I'm a 10. Hi, my name is Susan. I'm a food addict and I'm a 10 on the scale. This is the one time in life it's not actually great to be called a 10. I am a perfect 10 in this one regard. And it's taken pretty much my whole life to get myself, solidly recovered from that. It's a thing. But yeah, that quiz will then lead you to a free masterclass if you want to watch it. It's like the equivalent of a 2-hour movie or something. And that will dive into the neuroscience of what I'm presenting here, all about how the brain blocks people from losing weight. So that information is still available to you if you're interested in that. But the Food Revolution Network is going to give you a link to the quiz. If at that point you don't want to be on my email list for more information, just unsubscribe. The link is at the bottom. But I do want you to have that number if you want it, because knowing you're a 1 or a 2 or a 3 and have almost no food addiction on board, then you can think to yourself, it doesn't matter if I eat these raisins. It doesn't matter if I eat these chips, in moderation, because I know how to do moderation. If you find out you're a 7 or an 8, now you have a new level of information that is empowering to have, because you can say, you know what? It doesn't serve me to keep bags of pretzels and chips in the house because the odds are just too high that I'm going to sit down and dip them in guacamole and overeat, right? So yeah, it's just good to know your number. And then if you're a 10, we should talk. So yeah, I feel you and I love you. Okay, let's talk about structure now. The primary form of structure I encourage people to adopt is pretty much a 3-meal-a-day plan where you're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner like our ancestors really did. One of the great things about that is that you get this great fasting window from the end of dinner all the way to bedtime. You pretty much get about 12 hours of not eating. What that does is it puts your body into a temporarily fasted state. We call this intermittent fasting. And that's when autophagy kicks in. That's the healing and repair and recycling of old and damaged cell parts. This is really important because, when you're 20, you don't miss it much. But when you're 40 and 50 and 60 and 70 and 80 and 90, it really makes a difference whether your body has been healing and repairing and replacing damaged cells and cell parts. Imagine a car that gets no maintenance. At 20,000 miles, it might be fine. At 200,000 miles, it's going to be a very different car than if it were regularly replacing the brakes, replacing the oil fluids, replacing the tires, etc. Right? Autophagy is that recycling, replacing, fixing, healing thing. And you don't get autophagy if you're never in a fasted state. So if you're eating your last bites of food right before bed and then you wake up and put oat milk in your coffee first thing in the morning, you're not ever going into autophagy really. And it's going to age you prematurely and make you feel pretty exhausted a lot of the time. The other thing that a nice 3-meal-a-day pattern does is it syncs up your circadian rhythm. So the circadian rhythm is the 24-hour biological clock. So I'm making my cursor go in a little sine wave like this because the 24-hour biological clock means that during the peak of wakefulness, you should have a lot of the hormones like cortisol and other hormones that indicate alertness and awakeness. And during the peak of night, you should be having melatonin and other hormones that make you sleep well. If your circadian rhythm is blunted or confused, you're going to not sleep well at night and you're going to be foggy during the day. And that's what happens when your circadian rhythm is off. We used to think that all this was just controlled by the central biological clock manager here in the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the hypothalamus. It turns, and this is reset every day with light exposure. So we used to think that light exposure was the key to managing your circadian rhythm. It turns out you have biological clock cells all throughout your digestive tract as well, including the kidney, the liver, the pancreas, all of the intestines and stomach, all of it has peripheral clock cells. And if you eat late at night, when the sun is down and, people normally, primitively, thousands of years ago would not be eating because they couldn't see. If you eat late at night and you tell your brain it's daytime now, you confuse the signals, you blunt your circadian rhythm, and now you're tired during the day and awake at night and can't sleep properly. And it throws off all kinds of other things as well, including proper hormonal release, all sorts of other things that are on a circadian rhythm. So a 3-meal-a-day plan is pretty important. For maximal weight loss, I like to teach the structure of writing down your food the night before. What are you going to eat the next day? Specifically, what are you going to eat the next day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? This is the number one habit, if you're going to be a health coach, that I would recommend you teach your clients to do. Period, full stop. It's the most important tool in the toolkit. Not after, before. And the reason is you activate a different part of the brain. When you're thinking, what am I going to do tomorrow? It's a very different thought than what do I feel like doing right now? What the brain feels like doing right now, I'll tell you right now, evolutionarily always, is eating the highest calorie density thing around. Period. That's what the brain wants to do at any given moment. But if you're thinking with your logical brain the night before, now you're thinking which leftovers need to be eaten up, what produce is about to go bad. It's a whole different calculus. And you're just going to make way better decisions. And all this structure actually creates a lot of freedom. I'm going to show you hard data on that in a moment. You're going to create a lot of automaticity with this. Now, automaticity is the final piece here. Automaticity is what bridges what I call the willpower gap, which is the gap between what people want to be doing with their food and what they're actually doing with their food. It's the gap between what people think they ought to weigh based on how they eat and what they actually weigh based on what they're actually eating that they're not realizing. There's typically actually a big gap there for people. Automatic means done without conscious thought or effort, especially because of habit. It's like brushing your teeth. It's like the person who brushes their teeth every night before bed, whether they're wanting to or not, whether they're sick, they're tired, they've been up late, they're traveling, they've been at a party, it doesn't matter. They brush their teeth before bed. You can eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner that automatically. How? You've got to create a structure and follow it that is designed for automaticity. So like 3 meals a day is. Imagine that your dentist told you you had to brush and floss your teeth 6 times a day. Would you be successful at that? No chance, right? Would you be doing that a year later? No, you would not. But twice a day you can manage because twice a day is woven into your morning routine and your evening routine. Well, 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, is automatizable, whereas snacking all throughout the day is not. So when people adopt a system like this, I've been teaching people to do this now for 11 years. I've been collecting hard data and publishing it in peer-reviewed journals. First of all, when they do this for 2 months, their hunger and their cravings go down. Their peace and serenity with food go up, even though they're following a way more rigid, structured, intensive plan than they ever thought would be manageable for them. It becomes automatic because it's automatizable. It's structured so that it's automatizable. And actually, they end up with a ton of peace and serenity with food. And their quality of life goes up, their energy, their social support go up, their number of poor mental health days go down, their depressed mood goes down. And under the most extreme conditions, these red arrows were during the peak of COVID, the effects were even bigger, showing that eating this way builds in resilience, believe it or not. And yeah, they get all of these social psychosocial metrics increased like on steroids. And then finally, when you take sugar and flour out of people's diets, it levels the playing field in terms of weight loss after menopause and menopause. This is a very large study with over 4,500 participants at every age. And you can see that there's no difference in weight loss here over 2 months, even at higher ages. Literally, our style of eating takes people in their 60s and 70s and gives their bodies the fat burning power as if they were in their 20s again. It's just shocking. And the reason for that is when you stop eating sugar and flour in particular, you stop messing with blood sugar with processed foods. And the whole foods that you're eating balance your blood sugar naturally between meals. And so it doesn't matter so much that you don't have estrogen on board. Estrogen is what's missing. As you age, estrogen is the hormone that pretty much falls off. And estrogen facilitates insulin, and insulin is your fat storage and fat release hormone. But when you're not messing with your blood sugar, it doesn't matter so much how sensitive your insulin is because your body's regulating itself just by the food that you're eating. And finally, we publish our weight loss results, and we outperform Ozempic and Wegovy in terms of the green bar here is our 6-year results, even better than their 4-year results. People regain weight from years 2 to 4, which is why most people are off the drugs before that time, is because their weight loss is already stalled out and they're starting to regain a little bit. And they're still paying $500 a month, which is untenable for most people. So it's actually possible to get the best weight loss results in the world through natural means. Happy to teach you more about that in the plant-based coaching and certification program. I'm one of the faculty, and we'll dive into that a little bit deeper. But that's a little preview for now, how to help yourself and your clients to achieve food freedom and a healthy weight for life. And I don't know if I've left time, but I am available for questions if anyone has any questions.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Absolutely brilliant as always. Yeah, I just think the world of your work, as you know, and we've seen so many people who have lost 25, 50 pounds, 75, 100 pounds, and more importantly, have peace around food for the first time in their lives. Thanks to your work. And when I say so many, I'm not talking about 3 or 5 friends. I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in the Food Revolution Network community. This stuff really works, seriously, and not just for a little while like a fad, but like for a lifetime. Of course, it takes practice, but that practice gets easier and easier with the automaticity that Susan teaches so brilliantly. We have time for just a couple of quick questions here. And so let's see, we have Michelle asking, I have all this knowledge with how to eat whole food plant-based. I do eat processed foods, but I do not eat processed foods, but my problem is I sometimes binge on chocolate as emotional eating. How can I stop myself doing this, and what tools do you suggest to change it?
Well, you used the word binge there. And when the word binge and chocolate go together, I start to feel like, I think you're my person, my dear. You might want to take the quiz and see how high your score is. I think the Food Revolution Network team dropped that link into the chat. If you score a 7, 8, 9, or 10, then I encourage you to watch the masterclass to learn how your brain is actually being hijacked by that chocolate. I know there's a lot of information out there about certain foods being quote unquote healthy for certain reasons, cacao, red wine. For someone who's susceptible to addiction, they're not healthy because we overdo them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing to keep in mind. I'm sorry. You might need a bright line for chocolate. That's a bright line is a clear, unambiguous boundary that you just don't cross. Like the bright line I put up for crack cocaine when I was 20 years old. I'm sorry. I wish it were true.
It's not what people want to hear, but sometimes you gotta tell them the truth, Susan. All right. Let's see. We have a question from Bina who said, regarding certain flours like red lentil flour or chickpea flour, especially made out of sprouted legumes and organic without anything else added, what are your thoughts? We do eat whole legumes, and these specific flours help with making wholesome wraps, in which one can add healthy veggies, nuts, and seeds. I'll also add sometimes these flours are used to make legume pastas.
Yes.
Susan, your thoughts?
Those particular flours are the least likely to cause addictive issues. It seems like legume flours in particular, like bean flours and bean wraps, bean pastas. Um, in my experience, if you take the quiz and you're a 1 through 6, I don't see any reason why that would trigger you. If you're a 7, 8, I would say proceed with caution. If you're a 9 or 10, it might be problematic. So it really depends on what kind of brain you've got. I mean, I'm such a fiend. I get hooked on decaf coffee, y'all. Like, if you've got a brain that's that far off the rails, even something like that might be problematic for you. If you're like most people, that's going to be completely fine. So you got to find out what kind of brain you have. People are different.
Okay, Susan, amazing. We're about out of time. Actually, we're a little past time here, but we could keep going. Folks, we'll try to respond to more of the questions that have come in, typing in answers as we go along here. Susan, you've chosen to dedicate your life to this mission, and you have helped so many people, and I, for one, am forever grateful. And again, for those who don't have the link, we put it in the chat earlier. If you want to take the quiz with Susan to see if you are addicted to food or how susceptible you are to food addiction, go to foodrevolution.org/foodquiz. Again, that's foodrevolution.org/foodquiz, and you can get on that journey and learn a lot more. And now, Susan, I just want to say thank you again. It is so wonderful to have you part of this community, part of the Plant-Based Coaching Certificate guest faculty, and part of my life.
Thank you so much, Ocean. I love you, and just big hugs to everybody. So sweet to be here with you. And yeah, it's a pleasure and an honor to be on the Plant-Based Coaching Certification faculty, truly, and to share with everyone here today. Thanks.
Wonderful.
Bye, everyone.
All right, friends, thank you for being here. Now, we're just overflowing with so much gratitude for our brilliant experts today. Brenda Davis, RD, Joel Kahn, MD, Susan Peirce Thompson, PhD. Their wisdom is so important, and I'm so glad you've joined us in hearing from them. Being able to bring you science-based information from trusted authorities, knowledge that can help people improve their health and well-being is such a blessing. And it's true of every event we have the privilege of offering. At FRN, we know we're helping change lives every day. We receive so many notes of gratitude, moving stories of remarkable recoveries, just about every single day. And the deep satisfaction we feel being able to help other people is something we want to extend to everybody who feels called to join us in this work. Ultimately, that is what this event is all about. It's about transformation, and it's about sharing. We don't want this to just be about you, though we hope it is about you. We want this to be about your community, the lives you touch, the people you care about. And now I'd love to share a story that beautifully illustrates what's possible when someone steps into their power and into the role of becoming a coach. Let's take a look at one of our amazing alumni, Coach Wendy Moyer. If we can play the video from Wendy here. Here we go.
Hey, my name is Wendy Moyer, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. When I was introduced to the plant-based coaching community, I thought that my dreams had come true because that's where my gifts and talents got their wings. It was there that I discovered that not only were my gifts and talents of use, but they were much needed in the world, and that is what I needed to hear to get started. I knew this was going to be my mission in life when I got up one morning and was standing in my kitchen, and I had just been to the doctor for some assistance on some areas in my health where I was lagging, including energy and just huge fatigue and a bunch of other things. And I'm browsing through my food journal that I started to keep and remembering that I was recommended to take medication. And I really didn't want any medication. I mean, this was the opinion, ×2, medication. And I decided that I needed another opinion. And it turned out that it was my opinion that I wanted most. And in my opinion, the results I was seeing in the food journal that I was keeping was that, surprisingly, food was making a difference in how I was feeling and how I was generating energy for my day, how I was able to interact with my family. And it was shocking because I am not a foodie by nature. You know, my inspirational moment arrived the day I got an email from Food Revolution Network inviting me to their brand new coaching course. And when that email came in, I had just been meditating on how am I going to share all these big ideas I have, food and movement and everything. I don't know how to put it together. And lo and behold, the Food Revolution Network, and it was like my dream had come true, and it was off to the races from there. I don't want to sound like I'm working for the Food Revolution Network because I am not, but I want to tell you that these people are truly valuable. All the people that they work with are fantastic. You can't find more kindness and openness than with these people. So when their invitation came to say, hey, would you like to be a coach in our community? It was like, are you kidding me? Where do I sign up? Show me the pen. I am truly inspired by my son. He has taken on plant-based living with both hands. He began at the age of 6 with me, entertaining the idea of all things plant-based and working with an edible schoolyard at school. And then we went on from there to our own kitchen. But now he's in college, and he has taken the things that we have learned together, the recipes that we have developed together, and he's taken them with him to college. He definitely will not be deterred by anyone or anything. And so I see that in him, and I see it in me. And I like to say that kindness rules as well. And he definitely is one of the kinder humans that you can find. So the place where I impact the world around me most is right here from my home and my kitchen. This is where I teach wellness, starting with myself. I emulate that out to my family, my son, my husband, and from there out into my present community, my neighbors. During the holidays, I love to share forward food for gifts, and I deliver or send food to my immediate family, extended family. We love to share our recipes and food with our charter school, and my clients have had nothing but extra benefits from all of the education and expertise that I gained in the Food Revolution Network community. We need coaches in the world. And I totally hear you. If you're thinking to yourself, whoa, that sounds scary and exciting, those are the perfect thoughts, and you are a great fit to come and join us. So come on in, the water's warm, we'll be waiting for you. You are most welcome indeed.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing in that video with us, and for Wendy's beautiful story. Wendy, thank you for being a part of this journey with us and sharing with us about your journey. You know, there are so many beautiful stories we get to hear about in Food Revolution Network's work. And I've got to say, the plant-based coaching certificate is the place where we get to go the deepest. The participants have such a profound experience in their own lives through all the coaching that happens with peers along the journey, through the deep dive on nutrition, through understanding the science of behavior change, and as well as the science of nutrition. And of course, for a lot of people, it's a step towards a new career path, which is absolutely extraordinary, because you can change so many lives when you're able to make this a part of your path. So we're going to tell you all more about this. For those of you who are interested in becoming plant-based coaches, this is an incredible opportunity, and we want to tell you what it offers, who it's for, what it is, what it's not, so you can decide if it's a next step you may want to take. We're opening a new cohort in January, the 2026 class, and there's still spaces. So now is a great time to learn more with a special discount that's available for folks who are part of this event, this webinar today. So Tracy and I are gonna take a deeper dive with you here. If you felt a spark today, a place inside you that says, gosh, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could be a part of something that helps not only my life, which it absolutely will, but also other people's lives, then this might be an opportunity for you to step forward. You know, at the end of the day, my dad and I started Food Revolution Network together because we wanted to help people heal their lives. We also wanted to help change food systems so that it can be easier for folks to do the right thing. You know, we live in a toxic food culture. It feels like you've got to fight an uphill battle just to eat wholesome, healthy food. But with the right knowledge and the right support, it can get so much easier. It's like you can have a wind at your back. And in our experience, having an informed and effective coach can make a world of difference for so many people. Sometimes at Food Revolution Network, it feels a bit like we're scattering seeds from airplanes, and those seeds can make a real difference. But at the end of the day, it's people on the ground who are the gardeners who can actually create so much more opportunity to grow healthy gardens. And that's where plant-based coaches come in, working at a grassroots level all over the place in their own communities and niches. So now, Tracy, I welcome you to come on back here and let's share some slides, shall we?
All right. Thank you so much, Ocean. I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit now about what makes this so special and why this program is so different. I'm really, really proud of everything we're doing here at FRN. And I know we're standing on the shoulders of giants with you, Ocean, and your father. And with a lot of help, we have built the world's most comprehensive plant-based coaching certificate program available. And this certificate truly stands apart from everything else out there. First, we specialize in whole food plant-based eating. We've got more than a decade of experience here at FRN, and then all of our combined experience with all of the faculty here. And we equip coaches to address specific challenges that people face when they're trying to adopt a plant-based lifestyle. Second, our heart-centered approach to coaching empowers people to create lasting, sustainable results. And as you've seen today, it's not just about telling people what to eat. It's about helping them to make a plan, set goals, follow through, and succeed. And thirdly, we go far beyond coaching skills and teach you how to build a business, attract clients, and even secure jobs in the field. So while we're also wanting to change at a grassroots level and impact communities, we give you a lot of options to explore and put together the path that's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, these three pillars are nutrition, which is grounded in science. This pillar focuses on a deep understanding of whole food plant-based nutrition and how to apply it in the real world. This is kind of what we've been focusing on a bunch today. The second pillar is coaching, where you learn the science and art of guiding people through real behavior change. And then the third is impact, where you design your personal path, whether that means launching a business, working in a clinic, or becoming a community leader. So let's go over these in a little more depth. So in the nutrition pillar, you'll gain a rock solid foundation in how the body works and how it responds to food. This pillar is comprehensive, and that's why PBCC has been reviewed by the Commission on Dietetic Registration and awarded 55 CPEUs for dietitians. We cut through the confusion about protein and supplements and calories and give you the tools to help clients prevent, manage, or even reverse chronic conditions like we've been talking about today, like heart disease and type 2 diabetes and obesity and so many other conditions.
And our coaching pillar is where transformation really comes to life. It's why PBCC has been reviewed and approved by the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching for 24 CE CPD credits. PBCC graduates also receive 24 CE CPD credits from the Continuing Professional Development Standards Office. This is a UK and international-based organization. And in these lessons, we explore how real behavior change happens. We draw from powerful fields like positive psychology and techniques like motivational interviewing. So you'll gain a deeper understanding of social determinants, learn how to meet people where they are with cultural awareness and sensitivity. And throughout the training, we offer clear, practical frameworks for facilitating transformation. We're going to show you the many ways that coaching can truly make a difference. And by the end, you won't just understand the science of coaching, you'll be ready to guide others towards lasting, meaningful change.
Now, in our impact pillar, you'll bring your vision to life. And because there are many different pathways to making an impact, this pillar is optional, but it's not required for graduation. That said, it's awesome. In fact, we created 3 distinct tracks within the impact pillar. You can take any or all of them. So there's the entrepreneurship track with Melinda Cohen, and it's for starting or growing a coaching business. Melinda has helped tens of thousands of coaches get businesses off the ground and make a good living. So this is your opportunity to take the step-by-step process from starting out to first client to growing a thriving business. And then there's the employment track with Teresa Keppel, which will help you find work in clinical or wellness settings. And the Changemaker track with me and Leanna Levine-Reisner is focused on community education and advocacy that works in the real world. Wherever you want to make your mark, we will help you chart the path to get there.
Now let's go a little bit over the program dates and structure. We're going to start with welcome calls on January 13th, and your first week of lessons will drop on January 26th. New lessons will roll out weekly for about 6 months, but you can move at your own pace. They will be unlocked weekly, but you don't have to stick with us in terms of the pacing. So each week you'll get about 2 to 4 hours of on-demand content in video and audio format with accompanying slides, transcripts, a full set of handouts and resources. And if you do follow our recommended schedule, it takes about 5 hours a week. But you could take more or less depending on your needs. And many students decide to spread it out to fit into their full lives. And either way, we support you all the way until you cross the finish line. So right from the start, you'll receive a rebrandable client toolkit with over 50 essential handouts and forms, everything you need to begin working with clients immediately. The toolkit includes self-assessment tools, nutrition and lifestyle educational handouts, coaching forms, etc., that carry you from an initial agreement and intake all the way through to your final session. In addition, you'll have unlimited access to our plant-based recipe database, which has more than 1,400 delicious recipes to share with clients. And to graduate, you'll complete an open book midterm and final exam. Ooh, I think I forgot to hit this, sorry. You'll be able to graduate once you complete the midterm and the final exam. These require a score of 80% or higher with unlimited retakes. It's open book. You can pause and come back. Participation in our Pillar 3, like Ocean said, is completely optional, and there's no exams for that. And even after you graduate, you'll continue to have unlimited access to all of the material and even the forum. So access to the team here, so you can return to the course anytime you want to continue or just revisit something. You'll also be invited to weekly live calls. There are deep dives, which are a space to go deeper into all of what you're learning in nutrition and coaching. And you'll have live real Q&A discussions with our faculty like Brenda Davis. And our practice pods will fill the first half of the program, and they're there to help you build your practice, your real world coaching skills through guided activities and breakout groups, also led by our coaching faculty. Impact sessions are the second half of the program where you get to explore these collections that Ocean mentioned earlier. You can meet with Melinda Cohen about the employment or the entrepreneur collection, and Teresa Keppel for employment, and Ocean and Leanna will talk about being a change maker. So there's live calls with them as well. And we'll have monthly student support calls where you can drop in for any reason, whether you just want encouragement or to reconnect for moral support and camaraderie, or you need specific guidance. We are here with you every step of the way. We offer a multitude of ways to get support before, during, and long after the program is complete. We ask students to take notice of our weekly emails that begin with week 1. We hold monthly student group calls, like I mentioned, but you can also get one-on-one time for direct support from our program coordinator or your coach mentor. You can use the program's group forum anytime, or you can email us directly anytime. And for those who graduate, we've also set up an amazing alumni group in Facebook for all of our graduates of all the cohorts. And it's a pretty passionate group of people that love to support one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now let's talk a little bit about the investment to participate in the program. So, first I want to say I wish we could offer this for free to the whole entire world, right? But of course, we live in a world where all of this takes resources, significant resources for FRN to create the program and deliver it. And we wanted to deliver something absolutely cutting edge and life-changing, and to provide a lot of support, not just a bunch of videos you download, but like a lot of support and interaction along the way, because that's consistent with the coaching mission, right? Like, coaches are in people's lives. They don't just deliver videos and then walk away, right? There's a loop there. So we want to create that for you as well. So all of that takes resources. And so we've done our best to make this as affordable as possible, and truly to create a collection of content that like Tracy, in order to gather the resources for her own coaching journey, had to spend tens of thousands of dollars, and now we're putting it all together under one roof. So the cost is $6,582 with our 6-payment plan, or for regular tuition, you can join for $5,997 when you pay all at once. However, as a part of this webinar offer, we wanted to offer a discount for you, those of you here today, to be able to take action a little faster. So you can enroll for a $997 per month rate, or if you pay all at once, that brings it down to $4,997, which saves you about $1,000. You'll also receive, by the way, over $10,000 worth of bonuses. Let's go over a few of those now. So you'll get access to Whole Life Club, FRN's ongoing membership community, which gives you recipes, trainings, and monthly action hours, and lots of other resources. This is a $497 per year membership community, and you'll have it for the lifetime of the community. Over 10 years, that would be worth almost $5,000 by itself. You'll get 2 years worth of Food Revolution Summit empowerment packages with top experts, doctors, and changemakers. Our most recent summit and the 2026 Food Revolution Summit when it comes out in April. You'll get FRN's 14-day plant-powered accelerator program, exclusive access to my Food Revolution Mastermind, where we'll have 6 live monthly sessions I personally lead, where we can dive into current topics, connect on a deeper and more personal level. And you'll also get some powerful business growth trainings from Sage Levine, including Make Money with Your Message, which helps you clarify your niche and your right fit client, and Story Superpower, where you learn about how to tell your story and tell stories in a way that sells and inspires and enrolls people in a bigger mission and in their own health. Once you graduate, you'll get a free 1-year listing in the Plantrition Projects directory as one of FRN's certified plant-based coaches. We promote this to our entire 1 million members so it can give you exposure and potentially new clients. And if you want to go further, maybe become a board certified coach with the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches, or pursue an integrated master's or PhD doctorate degree in lifestyle medicine and health coaching, we're able to offer graduates a partnership with Lifestyle Prescriptions University, which gives you streamlined, accelerated, and discounted tracks that can accelerate your path.
So here are the logistics of how to enroll. To secure your spot and lock in the special pricing with all the bonuses that Ocean just mentioned, you'll want to submit a $100 deposit by tomorrow, end of day, Wednesday, October 8th, and then fill out the short application that you'll get by email. We will review it within a week, and if you're accepted, your deposit goes towards your tuition. If not, we'll refund it in full. And of course, you can find all the details at certificate.foodrevolution.org, which is on the broadcast page if you're with us on Zoom. But we'll also post the link in the chat in a moment.
All right, so here's our promise. When you complete the plant-based coaching certificate, you'll have a lot more than just a certificate. You'll get a comprehensive education in plant-based nutrition that is grounded in the latest science and that is full of practical, real-world applications. You'll develop coaching skills that empower you to support lasting behavior change and to work effectively across a variety of client settings. You'll also get business and marketing resources and training to help you attract and grow a steady stream of clients with clarity and confidence. And just as important, you'll become part of a supportive, mission-driven community with unlimited support. That means continuous access to tools, resources, and connection with peers and faculty who are here to walk with you every step of the way.
So all of this sounds great, but we don't want you to just take it from us. So before we take your questions, we're going to hear directly from a couple of our amazing graduates. They'll share what their learning experience was like and how it boosted their confidence and the difference that they're now excited to make with the tools that they've gained.
I didn't want to pass an opportunity to just talk about what a really great course this is in its entirety. I've been passionate about nutrition since I'm 17. I'll be 65 in a few weeks. I've been a chiropractor for 35 years. I've been focused on nutrition in my practice exclusively for almost 20 years. The information that was presented and the way it was presented by all the professionals and all the teachers in this course was just so fantastic. And I've been going to seminars for a very long time, and I was really, really impressed. What really inspired me to sign up for this course was not so much the nutrition, because I felt like I already had a lot of information under my belt for sharing good nutrition with patients and clients. And of course, I learned so much more. It was the coaching, the ability to learn how to deeply listen to people, to guide them, to really hear them. And I really got that from the course. I'm going back and re-listening to all the lessons and taking notes and printing things out. And I still have a lot to put together that I want to do to be able to present. Yet I got so much from this course, and it's so generous in how it's presented and all the information and the value that I received from this course. And I really can compare it to what else is out there, because I have been attending seminars on health and nutrition and all of that for so many years. But as a physician, you're really not taught how to communicate with patients and how to guide them and support them. It's very different, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to now add coaching to my work with my patients and develop that, just be able to offer that and to help people really change their lives in a way that's compassionate and thoughtful and all the things that you guys have taught. So I'm really, really grateful for that. And I'm very excited about my certificate. I printed it out right away. I took my exam as soon as it was available, and I was very excited to be able to add that to what I've been bringing to people. So a huge shout out to all you coaches and teachers and doctors and Ocean. And it's just fabulous. And I've been sending a lot of my patients. I said, well, you want information on that? I'm going to send you a link. The Food Revolution Network blog, you can search all sorts of things. Then I send them the link, whether it be plant-based protein or how to naturally lower cholesterol. It's just a plethora of information, and I'm very, very grateful you guys are here. And I thank you all from the bottom of my heart.
I am now, as of August 5th, 6 years past my death sentence, when I was told I had 6 months to live. And I was like desperate to share, the little bits that I learned, but I didn't know how to do it. And you guys taught me how to do it. And I am eternally grateful for that. Because, oh God, sorry, because now I know that I can help save lives like I've saved my own. And I am really, really grateful for the program you guys put together, because it is amazing. It is so well-rounded, and it was everything that I needed that I didn't know I needed. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for sharing in all of that with us. Just we're just so proud of our alumni. There's a lot of them on this call today. Thank you all for chiming in the chat. We've seen lots of comments, people sharing what the program has meant to them. And we want to take some time now to answer any questions you might have about the plant-based coaching certificate. So go ahead and pop them in the Q&A box in Zoom here if you have some questions. I see one from Kia who said, I'm in a different time zone. Is it still possible to participate in the plant-based coaching certificate? Yes, absolutely, Kia. We work with people all over the world in a whole range of different time zones. And so that includes, a lot of our programs are held in time zones where it's kind of like morning-ish in the US, which is also like evening, late afternoon, evening in Europe. What that is more tricky for is folks who are in Australia and Asia. So then we have, of course, recordings of everything, and you can also submit questions in advance. But also we have some activities that happen in what is like late afternoon, early evening US, which is morning in Asia. So we try to accommodate a variety of time zones. I will say participating probably in Asia and Australia is the hardest from a live perspective, but there is still some live content for you there. And of course, everything's recorded, and then it's optimal for folks kind of in everywhere from Europe through North America and South America, just generally speaking. But we have folks from all over the world fully participating. Go ahead again and share your questions in the Q&A box if you like. And I see some people are also putting them in the chat. So I'm going to take a look over there, unless you've already got some, Tracy.
I just shared the link again to send a deposit.
Okay,
And
yeah, right, because I see someone asking about that. For those who are watching later and maybe don't have access to the chat, it's certificate.foodrevolution.org. Again, that is certificate.foodrevolution.org. A lot of people ask how much time it takes. We may have addressed that a bit already, but can we speak again to that, Tracy? How much time investment does it take for this program starting in January?
yeah, absolutely. Well, the total length of time is just little over 6 months. We deliver it in 2 segments. We have a first half and a second half. And right in the middle is a 2-week midterm break, which is fantastic because it straddles the Food Revolution Summit, which we gift to our students as well. So you won't be bored if you cannot, if you're not getting enough information from us, there's more there. I would say that, we do have a student success guide for those who enroll because we really felt like we needed to give a little bit more direction about how to plan for success. And we now are asking people to carve out in advance about 5 hours a week in their schedules to be able to consume at least the what you need to pass the course. That you can go as deep as you want. We have so many extra resources, and you could, it's so easy to go down rabbit holes, especially when you're passionate about a certain topic. So we have plenty of ways to go deeper, but I think putting aside 5 hours a week is enough to pass.
Thank you. Christine said, I'd add the program is a lifetime investment with continued opportunities to learn included. There's so much info and additional links provided in the program. It's above and beyond just a one-time course. And then Justin said, just a big shout out to the FRN network. The course that was published last year has set me on a path that I will be forever grateful for. To anyone on the fence, take the jump. You are the master of your story. All we need are the tools. Thanks to FRN, I got them. And all I can say is I'm able to build my dream world. Lori said, I just graduated from the program in the summer. It was truly life-changing. Even if you have no plans to use it as a career, such a wonderful community to be a part of. And I want to say, there's an old saying, if you want to know who you're going to be in 5 years, look who you're spending time with now. A lot of us, especially in a toxic food culture, find it hard to really get that support to anchor in the keystone habits that make our lives optimized for health and well-being. This is a place where you get a community of practice. So, of course, we hope you'll have a career and change millions of lives. But it really is a community of practice for you as well. And for anybody who's wanting to go deeper with a healthy lifestyle, this is an investment that will pay off for the rest of your life. A study published in the journal PLOS Medicine a few years ago found that moving from the typical diet to an optimal diet, even as late as the age of 60, could add 8 more healthy years of life. And if you started sooner, you could add even more. If you started at 80, you could add 2.5 healthy years of life. Not just years, healthy years of life, which is pretty dramatic if you think about it. And so what we're talking about here is how to add healthy years to lives. And that's worth a lot, right? And yet so many people try to do it alone and they struggle. So this is a place where you end the struggle and you get the support to really transform. And you also learn how you can help other people as well. Francesca said, I live in Canada. My hesitation is what a career will look like based on the restrictions and blocks that the federal and provincial governments have on anything that is alternative or not allopathic medicine. Is there any kind of insurance that could be needed to be purchased to cover the practitioner? So I would say, Francesca, that this is not medical practice here. What we teach people is about coaching, right? And actually how to be clear in your scope of practice so that you're able to kind of stay in your proper lane. So you're not competing with allopathic practitioners. You're just creating another possibility for people. It's a yes and kind of a world. We do find, of course, that when people change their diets radically, they often, if they're on blood pressure medications or diabetes medications, they have to taper off rather quickly because they don't need them anymore. But allopathic medicine can accompany that journey because all they need to do is get some blood tests done and talk to their doctor, and their doctor will say, whoa, we need to lower your medications. People often can literally, I've seen great many people get off A1, lower their A1C so much, lower blood pressure so much, they get off meds in a week, right? But you don't want to do it without consultation with the doctor or a healthcare provider and some blood work, because obviously you need to be thoughtful. But a health coach can help someone on the path in a complementary way. A lot of doctors nowadays realize food matters. They'll often say, eat a healthy diet, get lots of exercise, lose weight. And then it's almost like, good luck with that. And now here's a prescription for some drugs and maybe a surgery, right? But the whole system is built around supporting the drugs and the surgery. And we're creating a new system, a new way of living, healthier way of living, and the support to implement that. And our vision for the future is that doctors, when they want to send someone to get drugs, they send them to the pharmacy. When they want to send someone to healthy diet and lifestyle, they send them to you, to the coaches who have been certified and trained and are ready to take their hand and walk them through that transformation. So that's what we're up to here in the plant-based coaching certificate. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Let's see. Yeah, Vicky said, do I need to be in the medical field before going for the certification? No, you don't. Not at all. There are a lot of doctors, dietitians, nurses, other healthcare professionals in our program. There's a lot of people who are not. It's absolutely not a requirement. Of course, if you're already a doctor or a dietitian or a nurse, like that's a leg up, right? People will respect that. But we have a lot of coaches who don't have that background and who thrive in their careers. And you don't need any prior specific degrees. You could be a 3rd grade dropout. And if you're willing to apply yourself and participate fully, we welcome you with open hearts and open arms. Let's see if we've got any others here that we should be answering. I think we have been able to get to most of the questions as we've gone along. So let's see. Let's move towards our closing here, Tracy.
All right. Well, today we really went deep into one of our favorite topics together, plant-based nutrition. And while that's the plant-based part of plant-based coaching, the real question is, how do we help people take this knowledge and turn it into lasting change in their lives? If you think about every presentation you heard today, are you able to walk away and do everything you heard? So this is where coaching comes in. coaching is the missing link. It's what turns knowing into doing. And it's one thing to understand what's healthy and another thing to make it a lifestyle. So coaches provide support, accountability, encouragement that people really need to make their habits part of life. So if you're passionate about healthy living and want to be part of the solution on the planet, I want to invite you all to please save the date for our next power-packed 3-day coaching workshop. We're always cooking up something yummy in the kitchen here, aren't we? All right, our next workshop is going to be November 18th through 20th. It's a Tuesday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and noon to 3 Eastern Standard Time, so the same time. And it's called Nutrition, Healing, and Coaching in the Modern World. We're going to go deeper on things that we didn't get to in our first workshop. So it's all new material. Please join us. And back to you, Ocean.
Yes, absolutely. And watch for emails from us so you can sign up for that. You know, we're just so grateful and so excited about all the enthusiasm for our mission and the plant-based coaching certificate program. I want to say that if you have follow-up questions about any of this, please email certificate@foodrevolution.org. Again, that is certificate@foodrevolution.org. I think Lauren can put that in the chat and we'll reply as soon as we're able. If all of this is sounding good to you and you want to gain these skills and you want to do meaningful work and you want to join the plant-based coaching revolution, we want to invite you to take the next step with us. Enrollment is open. We only open this once a year. Each cohort is capped at 300 participants. We've already got almost 250 deposits. If you want to make sure you get in the door and you want to take advantage of the big discounts that are available today and tomorrow, go ahead and get your deposit flowing in at certificate.foodrevolution.org, and we look forward to welcoming you. Again, here's how the application process works. So there's a short application and a one-time fee of $100. If we decide it's not a good fit, we will refund your fee and let you know. But if you're approved, your application fee will apply towards your tuition. Once your application is approved, you'll have 2 weeks to submit payment, during which time your spot and your discount and all your bonuses will be held. There's an option for a payment plan, or you can save if you pay in full. And there's a special discount available for a limited time, as well as some special bonuses available if you submit your application deposit before the end of the day tomorrow. So again, go ahead and get your deposit and application in at certificate.foodrevolution.org. And we'll be sure to add that link to the chat now as well.
Right. Well, this program is the shortcut I wish existed when I started. Ocean mentioned that earlier, how much I spent. It took me years and tens of thousands of dollars to gain the knowledge that we now have here all in one place. So we designed this program to give you everything you need to start working with clients and changing lives right away. But if you're still on the fence and you think that speaking with someone on our team might be helpful, we invite you to consider booking a clarity call. It's a free call with one of our expert advisors at the Food Revolution Network. A clarity call can be incredibly helpful because it gives you personal guidance to see if this certificate is the right fit for you. You'll get to ask your questions about the curriculum, career opportunities, how it aligns with your goals, and it offers insights into how you might be able to make a meaningful impact in your community. You can even speak to an alumni, which is pretty cool. So the webpage to book that call, we'll put that again and we'll put that in the chat. Oh, it's already there. Free clarity call. There you go. There's the link. And for anybody listening, it's certificate.foodrevolution.org/calls/ and we'll put it in the chat.
Yes, absolutely. You know, let's remember what's at stake here. You know, food is the foundation of health or disease. When you help people get healthy, you can change their lives in profound ways. Our team at FRN is hearing from people almost every day about how this message has helped them reverse disease, lose weight, feel better than they have in decades. We want you to be able to have that same joy. We want you to be able to be a part of the plant-based coaching revolution for your own health, for your own life, for your family, for your loved ones, for your community, and for all the lives you may yet touch. If you are inspired to step forward. Millions of people are struggling and they need guidance on how food can be their ally. So this really is a chance to be part of a movement that's changing lives. I think we're at a crossroads right now where each of us can choose how we want to respond to the many crises facing our world today. You know, people talk about hope and whether we have hope. And I say hope is not a spectator sport. I think it's not so much of a noun as a verb. It comes from what we do and how we live. And if you want to be a part of the solution on this planet, if you want to be on the right side of history, helping people get healthy, helping people be healthy, helping people make healthy choices is one of the most powerful, bold, courageous things you could do. I'm proud to stand alongside so many courageous, bold, compassionate humans in this community who are part of this event today, who are part of Food Revolution Network, who are part of the Plant-Based Coaching Certificate. And together, we are shifting the course of history. If you want to take a deeper dive, if you want to go further, we do invite you to, again, visit certificate.foodrevolution.org and go ahead and get your deposit in today. Again, your application fee is fully refundable if you end up not enrolling, but it will be applied towards your tuition. So don't wait, because the discount's available again today and tomorrow. And together we can ignite a food revolution, we can heal lives, and we can help to heal our precious world. Again, this is an incredible opportunity, and whether or not you join Plant-Based Coaching Certificate, I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this movement. Thank you for all the ways you choose to live and eat in alignment with your conscience, your values, and your highest well-being. Let's do this. Food Revolution Network is a community of nearly 1 million people who are committed to healthy, ethical, sustainable food for all. We've sent 1 billion educational messages to activists and changemakers in over 160 countries. Our online summits have reached more than 2 million. We've brought more than 300,000 people together for our campaigns for transparent food labeling and to get nutrition taught in medical schools. Worldwide, health and wellness is now a $1.5 trillion per year industry. Never before have so many people been fired up about enjoying a plant-based lifestyle. If you're passionate about helping other people make the transition from knowing what to do to doing what they know, you're in the right place. Join our thriving community as a Food Revolution Network certified plant-based coach. Together, we will help to change the way the world eats. You're going to learn about the fundamentals of plant-based nutrition,
vegetables, fruits, legumes, calcium and iron, macronutrients, phytonutrients, controversies, and my greatest tips for how to make plant-based eating irresistible.
You'll find out about the art of strategic coaching to fuel behavior change.
A great coach does more than just tell people what to do.
How do you encourage intrinsic motivation?
Coaching is about meeting people where they are, co-creating a personalized plan for success.
And we'll look at proven strategies for making an impact. We want to help you not just make a difference doing good, but also to make a good living.
If you can develop a practice that consistently helps people on a path to health and wellness, you can change their life in an utterly profound way.
So if you want to get real skills in nutrition, coaching, and impact that you could apply in your own life, join us at Food Revolution Network's Plant-Based Coaching Certification.